The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Live tonight from the World Center of Racing, Real Sim Racing's annual Winter B-Car Series take to the track once more for another exciting 10-week season of off-season racing as RSR's flagship Full Throttle Cup Series came to a conclusion here just 1 week ago. We welcome you to LSRTV's coverage of the 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on iRacing Live. Good evening, Sim Racing fans. Happy to be topside with you once again. And myself, Evan Pasoko, going to be joined by Chris Murdoch at the LSRTV booth tonight. As always, downstairs, the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza. We're also going to be checking in over the course of the night with our in-race analyst, Brian Macklin, as the night goes on. But as I noted, and kind of interesting how this series falls into play, but for those who have been with us for quite some time and those in and around the RSR circle, you know that it is that time of year again where the Icebreaker Winter Series returns, and we could not be more excited because, Chris, this is kind of the time in the season where the bulk of the stuff that we get to cover here kind of rounds down to a close. And, well, a lot of guys and really a select few guys who were in that Full Throttle Cup Series just talking about they'll take this winter time to kind of take it easy, to back it off a little bit. If you want, there's still plenty of stuff to do, and we have a full field here tonight and a full 43-car series getting set to go for 10 weeks. We'll talk about the schedule in just a little bit, but you look at the obvious, we are under the lights tonight at the Daytona International Speedway to get things kicked off. And again, no points implications coming into tonight. It's a clean slate, 1 through 10 races. You get the most points at the end of it all, you're going to be an Icebreaker Winter Series champion. But it is always fun to see these Xfinity Series cars on track, and it's always fun when you have RSR live here on LSR TV and iRacing Live, so I'm pumped to get the season underway.
Yeah, definitely, especially to start it off here at Daytona. It's such a phenomenal racetrack. A lot of series you'll see come here to open the season, and that's just because it's such a wild card. Anything can happen here at any given moment in Daytona, so I'm so happy to be up here in the booth and bringing this to you guys. It's going to be so much fun. Like you said, a clean slate, everything's wiped clear. You know, a lot of the official series here in iRacing are winding down, so people do look to these hosted races, these leagues, and like you said, a full field, so sure to be an action-packed race tonight.
Drivers are working through their 10-minute qualifying session as we get set to set the grid for tonight's 250-mile contest at Daytona 250, round 1 of 10 on this 2016-17 campaign. For those who regularly tune in with us on Monday nights for RSR Full Throttle Cup Series competition, we just got done with an exciting 2016 championship that came to a conclusion at Homestead just 7 days ago now. To this point, we're happy to have you back with us through the winter months. You're going to recognize a lot of familiar names, not only from that Full Throttle Cup Series on track, but also names from some of the other tiers inside of RSR. They're also running some off-season Cup Series action, Midnight Thunder Truck Series action as well, that some of you may be familiar with as well, but also some more familiar names that I do need to give a call to one in specific. Laura Lawson going to be trackside tonight, and we'll be keeping an eye on her. It's going to be very difficult to not see her car. She'll be in the very obnoxiously bright number 25, and we hope that Laura can get a good show in here for us at LSR TV. The qualifying session, though, just now draws to a close. We're set to go Icebreaker Winter Series racing. We'll take this opportunity to go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSR TV starting grid. No surprise in this. Doesn't matter that it's a plate track. He still finds a way to be fast. Fastest in practice is also on pole. Dwayne Vincent in the number 13 puts up a 49.71. He'll start on pole position just 3/1000ths of a second faster than Tim Matthews, who's going to have to roll from P2. David Comstock, Jose Gonzalez, They'll be back on row number 2, starting in 3rd and 4th position tonight, and Bobby Terrell in the number 14. Always a force to be reckoned with in these B cars with the top 5 in queue tonight.
Yeah, and coming home in that 6th position, Jeremy Bazemore in that one machine, and our very own in-race reporter, Brian Macklin, coming in 7th. Raul Alves, 8th. EJ O'Rourke, 9th, and Scott Stenzel in that 42 machine will round out your top 10.
Still inside of the 49 7-second bracket, Shane Hewitt will start 11 tonight. Kyle Tarasca will be in the number 12 spot. Unlucky number 13 tonight belongs to the 17 of Bobby Wetzel. He'll have Scott Brotherton to his right-hand side in 14th position. Mike Franklin just behind them, P15.
Yeah, coming home 16th, Joey Gattina 12th. Steve Bevacu in that 36 car 17, Jeff Ward 18th, Kevin Linden 19th, and rounding out your top 20, that 33 car of Justin Lisenby.
Chad Cole, another familiar RSR name. He'll be back in 21st position tonight. 22nd for William Hale in the LSRTV Ford. Michael Waters back 23rd. Jeffrey Ford in 24th position. Yes, he is also piloting a Ford Mustang. And David Batone through top 25.
26th, Josh Cheney. 27th, Jimmy North. Alan Rowe, 28th. 29th, Doug Roth. And rounding out your top 30, Scott Sinder.
Go all the way back to 31st position. You're still talking about within 9/100ths of pole time, but 31st belongs to Mike Kelly. Then you'll find that number 25 of Laura Lawson on track. Douglas Wyatt 33rd, with Jared Treese in 34th position, and P35 tonight with Eric Arnold's number 31.
36th, Ronnie Potts. 37th, Keith Brooks Jr. in that 81 machine. 38th, Joe Hudson. 39th, John Fowler. And rounding out your top 40, and the last person to take a time here, Jeff Aviano in that 27 machine.
Handful of drivers going to round out the field here tonight on some provisionals. 41st going to go to A.J. Browning. John Abbott going to have the option to roll from 42nd, and also at the back of the packet on the grid getting set to roll, the number 64 of Michael Priester. That's a look top to bottom at your LSR TV starting grid for round number 1. The pace car about to roll them off to turn number 1 as we get set to get underway. So let's talk about this Daytona International Speedway. It is probably one of, if not the most popular track that we see all of these series come to here on LSR TV, and yet it consistently and not surprisingly produces some of the best racing. It's an asphalt surface at 2.5 miles in length with 31 degrees of banking. Now, obviously, a lot about Daytona comes self-explanatory. You can really only start to talk about some of the details when you compare it to some other tracks, like a Talladega, very similar. A little bit of a tighter track here than what you will see in Lincoln, Alabama, and as well the start-finish line dead center. But this is the World Center of Racing. It is where, in actually 90 days from now, the 2017 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series casual going to get underway with the Daytona 500, but it is also therefore very fittingly the place that we open up this campaign here tonight, and it should be a good one with 100 laps and 250 miles on the board, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. It should be an interesting track. Like I said before, such a wild card track. You're going to see maybe 2-3 wide situations here. At any given moment, these drivers wanting to get their season started off right. You maybe won't see that at the start here. Maybe trying to see people take it a little easy. Like you see them try to, with these super speedway tracks. So it should be really interesting to see how these drivers treat this beast.
We ran you through them top to bottom. 43 cars get set to get this campaign underway. And again, it is the off-season for all intensive purposes. But with that comes icebreaker action once again right here on LSR TV and, of course, iRacing Live. We're happy to have you with us. And we're going to race out for a championship all the way through the beginning parts of February, and then we get right back into 2017 full schedule action. So we've got you covered during the downtime here in the winter months. But with that being said, we're set to rock and roll. The pace car going to make the sharp left-hand turn down and away, and set from Daytona. American Ethanol green flag for the 13 of Dwayne Vincent. We are underway for the 2016-17 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series. The field is green. Off to turn number 1 for the first time. Got to get him up to the gears into 3rd and now 4th, already at 170 miles an hour in the pack as the field goes through 1 and 2 for the first time. Pole sitter Dwayne Vincent advantage on the inside. inside with David Comstock.
Yeah, and Tim Matthews up on that high side. He didn't get the start he wanted to at the start of this race. It was an accordion effect with all these drivers on the high side. You saw him bouncing off one another and just going back and back through the field. So he's looking with that run. He's got that 26 of Jose Gonzalez on his back bumper, and he's looking to make a charge to the front.
First lap really just about getting these guys up to speed. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the importance of the draft. Well, lap number 1 get to go to the driver who started on the outside of the front row. How about Tim Matthews gets the first bonus point of this 2016-17 campaign. Puts it in the back pocket. He leads lap number 1 for the outside. Check up though down in 1 and 2. It's going to force the 42 of Scott Stenzel out of line for a moment. The 88 machine behind him, Kyle Taraska, checks up. Those team cars communicated well. Going to be able to really minimize what could have been kind of bad, talking about the accordion effect. That almost happened right there off down to 1. Everybody gets things sorted out. It did kind of kill some of the momentum though in the middle of the pack. Nonetheless, back up front, Dwayne Vincent going to fight back at the inside. Still 2x2x2 as they lined up at the start of the race.
Again, none of these drivers looking to give an inch here early on. They're still side by side. As you see, Tim Matthews kind of getting a run in the tri-oval here. He's going to be leading these laps. There's another one, lap 3 now. He's looking, but as you see, it kind of gets a deadlock. They're kind of a wall as you enter the corner. It just allows Dwayne Vincent to get right back on that inside, and you'll see him lead down here the backstretch. You know, that's something these outside drivers have to worry about, getting that run on the high side and keeping that run throughout the corners to get that lead and ultimately get them in the front position.
Long way to go tonight. Really, the objective in these opening laps is just to keep the car in one piece. However, for a lot of guys, and running through the starting grid here again, a lot of big talented names inside the top 10 and even some outside of the top 30. But this is what we call the great equalizer. Daytona is a race that everybody circles because we're going to get into the bulk of the calendar year. You're going to go to racetracks that you don't like. You're going to go to racetracks that you really do like. And while some people still aren't fond of plate tracks, most everybody in a position like these guys are and who run in some of these top-tier private leagues on iRacing, and RSR is definitely right up there in the elite class of those leagues. You know how to get around this kind of a place. Anybody could go to victory lane at the end of the night. We have our first change for position, if you will, up front. Dwayne Vincent, he was able to lead the last time by, but Tim Matthews got all the way clear. He jumps down in front. He will now take control of the inside lane. So we'll see what Jose Gonzalez can do on the outside. The Meatball Mobile getting pushed by the 1 of Jeremy Bazemore.
Yeah, and you see him get right up even with that 54 and even try and pass him. So that outside line is definitely moving here. As you see Jose Gonzalez try to clear himself, not going to get there. The 54 will get back to his corner panel, and now his door, you know, on that high side seems to be a little separated. You see the 40 of David Comstock, he's separated from Dwayne Vincent, and in that corner Dwayne Vincent got separated from Tim Matthews. So the inside line is struggling in these opening laps to get everything sorted out. Meanwhile, that high line is just moving.
Outside tends to be the passing lane, a little bit dicey around the 30 of Raul Alves. He has a car rate tucked up on a bumper. That's the number 42 with Scott Stenzel. Talked about him when we went top to bottom of the grid here tonight. They've also got the 46 of EJ O'Rourke with the gmercer.com colors aboard his Chevrolet Camaro, as always, just a little bit further off of the back end. But yeah, on the inside, you're not really going to go too far. It's kind of the opposite of the freeway. Left lane is not the fast lane. It is not the passing lane. Now, for the 54 and the 13, they can do everything they can to keep the guys on the top side from being able to do anything. You see really good drafting work right now. Vincent on the back bumper of the 54, sticks the nose out when he go off to the corner, needs to get air, obviously, to the front of that car. But really, for the 40 of Comstock, the 14 of Terrell, not much that you can do when you're on the inside. You're just sitting around and riding. It's fun, though, on the outside. I don't think we're going to see anybody pushing at least too much more than just 2 wide early, if not for the majority of this race. Talked about how this racetrack is substantially tighter than Talladega. Sure, it looks fine on the straightaway. Things tighten up very quickly when you get off to the corner. But the guys on the outside, that's where you got to make headway. But the one machine kind of hanging off of the back bumper of the 26 for now, not making any sort of a big charge quite yet.
Yeah, and one thing we got to mention here, Evan, is the fact of these cars and the tip that these cars can reach. Getting up on the bumper can only last maybe about 1 or 2 laps. That's why you're seeing now, Dwayne Vincent and Jeremy Bazemore, they're hanging off the cars in front of them, and like everybody else in the back, they're hanging off because they don't want to get too close bumper and cut off the airflow, because these cars can get up to high temperatures really fast, and then water starts spewing out and then end your day. So you got to preserve your engine and keep it cool, especially in these opening laps.
One thing that the drivers might like to hear when you're talking about that is it is a cool race, and of course under the lights it's not as hot as some of the other track temps we see at Daytona. It's only 78 degrees inside of the sim, the track temp the exact same, a little bit cooler, maybe a little bit more leniency. I was talking about the 2-3 wide, maybe nobody wanting to push it. The 30 tries to squeak up the inside of the 26, is able to force the 1 out of line. And the 40, but David Comstock with a big bobble. Somehow, they navigate 3 and 4, 3 abreast inside of the top 10. And it looks like they're going to be able to hang on, no problems in front. There goes Dwayne Vincent.
Yeah, our leader's Dwayne Vincent. He took a hard turn towards that outside wall. He got up in the air. Just unfortunate, we still got drivers wrecking. We got Bobby Terrell spinning out across the grass and then through the infield. So just a terrible. That's the first big one, so to speak, of the day, only on lap 9.
It was a tough break there. It all started again with the 30 going 3 wide. It went up inside of the 1. The 1 kind of accepted that. Jeremy Bazemore gave space. Jose Gonzalez did not. Shut the door. Effectively, it worked. The 30 stayed behind him. However, with that checkup, Dwayne Vincent made a move to the outside, and Jose Gonzalez tried to walk it up the hill. And you could argue if you're Jose Gonzalez, the 13 was trying to block the racetrack, and he kept going up and up and up. You eventually ran out of space. Jose Gonzalez could argue, it's lap 8. Quit blocking. Nonetheless, though, contact inside of the top 5. 2 cars going for 1 piece of real estate, going to have us under the first caution flag of the night. Just after it looked like we had navigated the brunt of all that chaos in 3 and 4, Chris, thought we were going to be okay. The guys up front get tangled together, and obviously because the contact was so far up at the front of the field, a lot of cars were coming through there at a Ford about 200 miles an hour, and a lot of people picking up damage who weren't a part of the initial contact, just couldn't find a way to get around it.
Yeah, and I like to put it, you can only cheat death so many times. We saw so many close calls in these opening laps. It's bound to catch up with you at some point. And for the 13 of Dwayne Vincent and a host of other cars, it just ended now. As you see your leaders come down pit road, they're gonna stop off, top off on that fuel, maybe put some right sides. They're gonna EJ O'Rourke, an interesting thing, rolled through. Tim Matthews, interesting, only put left side tires on the car. So that's something you're going to have to pay attention to here at Daytona, the 2 or 4 tire stop.
Yeah, and at these plate tracks, and again, being at a night race kind of ties into this as well. Talking about temps, it also kind of plays a small factor in tires. David Comstock, second car off of the pit lane, did not take tires, but he was down there for long enough to get fuel that Matthews was able to get 2 tires, still get in and out of pit road in front of him. What you see unique to plate tracks that you don't typically see at the intermediate and the shorter tracks is they'll go 2 tires, Chris, while also getting 4 tires changed, meaning normally they start on the right side, but you see,
like you mentioned, 2 tires and 4 tires, it just minimizes that time on pit road. You get that all-important track position, especially at a track like this. You want to get up front and stay up front as much as you can. So it's just very important that you minimize your pit stop time.
See if we can catch up on the radio with our LSRTV in-race reporter, Brian Backlund. Brian, you got us?
Yes, sir. How you doing tonight?
We're doing good, and I think it's safe to say that you're doing good because a lot of guys that were running up where you were are no longer inside of the top 10. I know lights went off, so we'll let you get back to the team radio in a second. You guys started 7th. You're now running in about 4th or 5th position, and we took a look on board with that 03 through that accident. What was it like for you?
That was scary. I thought my night was going to be over when that wreck started happening. I really didn't think I had anywhere to go, and I just sat there and prayed for the most part and just kept the wheel straight, and fortunately the seas parted and I was able to get through cleanly.
We've been talking about the strategy early in this race is to avoid scenarios just like that. What's going to be the call for you guys? Is it because normally if you're not hanging back, if you're not in the middle of the pack, you either want to be up front or way back, but up front really wasn't a safe position there. Are you guys just going to try to be in this thing all night, or is it going to be any point where you drop back for strategy?
Nah, I don't see any time where I'm going to drop to the back unless things get really scary at the front and I don't feel like it's going to end well. I'm going to try to stay up front, try to get to the lead, try to lead as many laps as I can, and maybe try to come away with a win.
Looks like you're going to be on the inside of run number 3 for this restart. We'll let you get back. Good luck.
All right, take it easy, guys.
That's a catch up with our LSRTV inter-race reporter Brian Macklin. Looks like he scored in the number 5 position for this restart. So a couple of things shuffled up. E.J. O'Rourke in the 46, we noted, drove through pit road, and it looked like he actually missed the stall, made a movement down, came back up, so maybe was going to make that turn in a little bit late. So he scored as your race leader. Running on the apron, lights go back on top of the pace car. It looks like a couple of people still trying to get sorted out where they are actually going to be correctly scored in the running order.
Yeah, definitely confusing here on the on the racetrack, as you see race control throws out another caution flag to try to get this all sorted out. It looks like E.J. O'Rourke is going to be scored in your lead position. He overtook Tim Matthews that time. Now he's forfeiting the position to Tim Matthews. It looks like, yeah, now he's dropping to the back of the field. It looks like that's going to give Laura Lawson, you know, in that obnoxiously green car, that second place starting position. So very, very confusing here in under the caution flag.
Hey, because we checked in with Brian Macklin, he was scored in 4th. And then was showing in 5th, and now he's up into the number 3 position. But it looks like everybody's gotten things doubled back up off at 1 and 2, and we're going to be able to get this one back away this time. The lights are back off on top of the American Childhood Cancer Organization Ford Mustang GT pace car. 12 laps going to be complete when we come by this time out of the 100 in tonight's Daytona 250. Still plenty of time to go. Nowhere near the end of this one. Barely a 10th of the way through. First caution, though, going to be extinguished the next time around. Outside of the incident that we saw down in 3 and 4, Chris, and I said that I don't think we'd see a lot of 3 wide early. You could say it stemmed from the 3 wide. You could say, I mean, they were 2 wide when the accident actually happened. But nonetheless, a lot of good stuff there early on. But we did see that accordion effect a handful of times create some sketchy situations on the outside that I think we're going to have to watch on this next stint.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to see that accordion effect happen a lot. You know, on the restarts especially, you'll see one driver get a start and the other driver, you know, hold back. So you're accordion effect a lot, and it's going to cause some major issues for these drivers.
This car going to look down and away. The top 2 drivers on the racetrack stayed out. They take over the top 2 spots. E.J. O'Rourke and Laura Lawson 1-2. Green flag back in the air and underway. Not an exceptional start for the 25 of the outside. It's going to be Matthews, the 03 of Ackland, and the 30 of Ruel Alves on the inside of the racetrack, trying to pull an advantage through 1 and 2.
Yeah, definitely. The 25, like I mentioned, you know, not wanted to on that restart, as you see Brian Macklin pull up, and that's going to cause a big jumble again on the back straightaway. Almost problems again. That accordion effect is going to play such a huge part here. That's going to be our main focus here, just that accordion effect, how much things can change in such a short span of time. You saw Macklin jump to the top and then just got everybody bent out of shape. It looks like everybody has evened out now. Everybody's good, as the 30 now jumping up to the high side, looking to take that lead from Tim Matthews.
He didn't leave much space off for the front end of Brian Macklin, but nonetheless, it's going to get Ruel Alves to the top spot and get the lap led that time by as he controls the outside of the racetrack. Laura Lawson in the 25. She'll duck down to the bottom, and well, the 40, David Comstock's really the only guy who hasn't gone anywhere up there. He's working with a 43 of Doug Roth off of the bumper. Now 4 drivers immediately stacked up in line. Down the back straightaway they go. Clear to the inside if the 30 wants to drop down. Tim Matthews has dropped back a little bit, but looks like no rush from the 30 team. He'll stick topside with the 03.
Yeah, definitely. As you see, the 84 of Jimmy North, he's got separated from that 54 of Tim Matthews, so that's going to give the high side a lot of room. As you see, it's starting to form here. You got the 40 catching back up to the 03, so the outside line has seemed to be working really well, as that inside line is just struggling to find any sort of speed, to get any drivers on the same page. So it's almost the opposite of what you want to have happen here if you're on the bottom. You know, it's just terrible. It's terrible to see all these drivers, you know, through the pack. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get it together and figure out a way to get back to the front.
We did know right before we went back green that we knew that these checkups were going to make things a little bit interesting, but this was a much less orderly restart than what we saw the first time. First 4 laps of this race, we were 2 wide in our exact order. We had people jumping high and jumping low about 4 or 5 times in the top 10 alone just on the opening lap off of this restart. Things have calmed down, though, just for the moment. Side by side inside of the top 8 the last time by the start-finish line. 18 cars all the way back through Jeffrey Ford, scored with 81 seconds at the top spot in the battle for the race lead once again, as Matthews still on the inside, working with the 84 of Jimmy North against the 30 on the outside of Alvis, working with the 03 of Brian Macklin. But we are 2 wide nonetheless and hanging on to things. Again, as we noted earlier as well, a lot of these names are familiar names, but for some of them, may have been a little bit since they've been in a B car, may have been a little bit since they've been on a plate track, and there is probably a handful of drivers here tonight that haven't raced with each other ever. So tossing these guys out there at 200 miles an hour as we go 3 wide, working the 26 around. Looks like the field's going to be able to safely navigate Jose Gonzalez as he goes 1 lap down from the 38th position. You do have to expect these guys to need a few laps before they can figure out how everybody around them likes to run.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody just trying to run their own race, not cause anything too much, as we saw, on the start of this restart, everybody moving up, everybody getting bent out of shape. They seem to settle down here and just want to take down the laps and get into a position that they can make the move for the race win and for the race lead. As you see, the 84 and the 54, they finally have gotten on the same page, and they're together, and they're trying to battle back against this, against Raul Alvis and Brian Macklin, and they're making it work. They're now even up with these this 30 car, so maybe they're finally getting what they need to get themselves worked out and get themselves in a groove here at Daytona, which is so important. As you see, the 84 ducked to the bottom of the racetrack and back up.
Another driver going to go a lap down that time by Bobby Wetzel on the outside in 37th. Now takes over the lucky dog position as the first driver 1 lap down. Jose Gonzalez, who we just put a lap down the last time around, is 38th, and now the second driver 1 lap down, and then Michael Priester. Those are the 3 drivers 1 lap down at the moment. Douglas Wyatt, Joe Hudson are 40th and 41st, 2 laps down apiece. Justin Lisby is also 42nd, 4 laps down, but he's behind the wall, so his night may be done. Justin Lisenby, and then Mike Franklin's night is done, so 2 cars so far behind the wall here tonight from Daytona. However, just like that, talking about an early caution flag, we'll be 20 laps into this race the next time around. And again, I think that these guys have kind of found themselves a spot in line like we saw in those opening 10 laps. But when somebody has that bobble and one person does not agree to check up and let everybody get away with it, as now we go by the 41 machine and put Ronnie Potts a lap down, that's when things can get interesting. You see Raul Alvis on the front row. He'll make the move down to the inside in front of Tim Matthews. And now Brian Macklin, for the first time tonight, gets to lead the outside lane. And with David Comstock on the bumper, look for these guys to try to go forwards.
And as you said, looking for these drivers to not agree with one another. You saw Raul Alvis duck to the bottom. You saw Brian Macklin get as close to that 54 as he possibly could. He did not want to give up that position or fall back in line. As you see them trying to work the side draft here, that's another thing we're going to have to pay close attention to, the side draft of these cars. You can get almost within a papered width of these cars, and you'll be able to pull yourself around like inside line and maybe vice versa here, as you see all these drivers getting really close to each other as the 30 is now regaining his spot in the lead.
Leading on the inside, all you can do, hold the double yellow line, and if in any way trying to communicate with Tim Matthews, but a lot of the responsibility falls back on that second car in line on the inside to be able to do anything about holding the guys at the outside of the racetrack off. Starting to see a little bit of separation, though. Still 14 drivers within 0.7 of a second at the top spot, but there's only 6 of them on the outside right now. And while you do have the 10 right there, it's almost a top 8 who are side by side, 4 on the bottom, 4 on the top. Other than that, though, you look outside the top 10, you start to see people. I had brought it up when we talked with Macklin there under the caution about maybe dropping back and hanging back. You do have some people hanging out single file while still inside of the top 20, not wanting to force the issue. Interesting move there by the 30 of Raul Alves. It's going to allow him to continue to lead now with 21 laps complete, but he actually goes from the bottom to the top to try to maybe take away some of the run that those 03 machine had. The 84s all kind of out of shape though. Jimmy North in big contact.
Huge contact here in this corner. You just saw the bobble as we spoke of before from the 84, and a lot of these drivers just didn't see it coming, and that just caused another huge massive crash here. Maybe 6 or 7 cars involved in that one, all jumbled up in one corner in 1 and 2.
Yeah, and take a look at the replay on this one, and Jimmy North saying the same thing that I'm thinking. I have no idea what happened to the 84. You will see sometimes, again, at Talladega, there is a little bit of a relief pit road. You go from the 30-plus degrees of banking. There is a slightly less banked area on the apron before it goes to flat. That's not a thing here at Daytona International Speedway, so sometimes you trickle a little bit low, get the left side tire on the double yellow, you spin it out. But, I mean, the 84 went into the corner, and it just started to spin. 88 was off the bumper, so not sure what the issue was, but Jimmy North was just hanging on at that point. Did such a good job for so long, but again, just like what happened in that first accident, Chris, because it happened up front, there's just too many cars coming in from behind that just can't slow down in time, and then that's where the big junk ensued.
Yeah, even the quickest of reaction times, as you see us on board with the 9 of Jeff Ward, he somehow eked by this wreck, and along with a few other cars like the 44 of Jeff Fowler. It's they managed to get lucky and barely skate by without any damage. So it's just unfortunate because Daytona is such a fast track. You have to be on your toes at every instant. Like you said, just a whole host of cars coming from the back just can't slow down fast enough, and it just ended a lot of people's day.
You would think now with 2 incidents up front that we'd have a lot of guys dropping back, and sure, that's true, but as we come down pit road this time, still 6 out of the 10 drivers inside of the top 10 started up north inside of the top 10 earlier on in this one. But it's your race leader, Tim Matthews, trailed by the 30 machine. Raul Alves actually the top spot, going to come back down pit road as scoring updates through. The 30 going to bring us down pit road. Tim Matthews in second. Second trip down to the pit lane for these guys on the second yellow. And we remember the 54, we were talking about the tires that he did last time. He went with 2 left sides. He goes with 2 right side tires this time, just like that tire strategy that we were talking about. He'll decide to put 4 on. It's going to cost him some time, though, as we see Alves, one of the first drivers out of the pit lane.
Yeah, we went, about 15 laps on that run this time, Evan. So, these tires are a little bit worn. You're going to see people just taking 4 tires, just getting it out of the way, and getting 4 fresh ones on, and, just trying to keep as much speed in the car as you possibly can. These tires could play a possibility. You get a lot of heat in the tires. You go into the corner, you turn into the corner, it could just snap on you. I've seen it happen so many times in these cars where you just drive into the corner and it snaps and you go around because you've just got worn tires. So 4 tires and fuel is going to be crucial here.
Under the caution flag for the second time tonight at Daytona International Speedway, Raul Alves, your race leader, who started in the 8th position, leads the way with Brian Macklin now in the number 2 spot. David Comstock rounding through the top 3. We'll take this quick opportunity to step aside, throw a yellow flag of our own, come back to Daytona Beach on the other side. You're watching the 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on LSRTV and iRacing Live.
You know, the straights are unbelievably long. The first time you come here, everyone tells you, you know, you'll be flat out 6th gear for 20 seconds. First time I was here, I lifted halfway down the straight. I didn't believe that it was still going. I was waiting to brake, and I was back on the power. And the Porsche curves are extremely fast and extremely narrow, so it's a tricky track. And you know, every year I've come here, you learn something new every time.
Le Mans is so fast. Wherever you accelerate, you are over 150 miles per hour. Going there, I realized everything you have done before was nothing.
We're back live at the Daytona International Speedway. We're doubled up and getting set to go back into green flag conditions. Lights out on top of the pace car. We're going to put our second caution in tonight's Daytona 250 behind us. And one lap ago, we marked the quarter distance marker in this RSR Icebreaker Winter Series season opener from Daytona Beach, Florida. It is going to be Raul Alves on the front row, Brian Macklin next to him in the number 2 position, David Comstock, Jeff Ward, and Tim Matthews inside of the top 5, 29 cars total being scored on the lead lap at the moment. A pace car going to duck off and away this time. Field in the hands of the 30 on the inside of the front row. American Ethanol green flag flies. We're back underway off to turn number 1.
Yeah, and nothing much has changed up here in the top 4, except for that 3rd position. You see Tim Matthews back in 5th off of that 4-tire stop. So that's the only real change we've had from this top 5 so far. And that 9 of Jeff Ward, who barely squeaked by that wreck. So it's going to be interesting how these new fresh faces treat these cars as you see them get loose off the corner. A little bobble there from the 45 of Josh Chaney and the 9 of Jeff Ward. They got a little bit out of shape. You're going to see the 45 duck all the way up to the out of the line and let EJ work past and just duck right back in. So another close call on that backstretch.
Yeah, 45 gets the short end of the straw on that one because he drops back in line behind the 46 and really doesn't have any momentum. He'll have to wait for the 3 machine to pick him up and be able to push him back up. But it's a big advantage for the guys on the outside of the racetrack. The 03 and the 9 both clear for a brief moment to the 30 on the inside, and now just Brian Macklin is clear. But now the 30 going to fight back up. Macklin decided not to make the move. He'd rather stick topside for the moment. So Raul Alves on the inside, trying to get a little bit of side drafting. Got a little bit too close for comfort that time. These guys going at it for the top spot.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's just Brian Macklin playing a little bit of strategy. He knows that the outside has kind of figured themselves out. They can get in a line when it's needed, and they can stay up front. As for that inside line, they seem to be scattered all over the place and just really out of shape. So as you see, Brian Macklin and Jeff Ward, they're on the back bumper. You see the 40 of David Comstock. He's laying off the back bumper. So Raul Alves is, like you said, having to use that side draft to his advantage as they get really close coming off a two there, excuse me, and it's just going to be a battle for who wants to give in first.
Once again, outside, back in the position they were before, getting a good run down the back. It looked like Brian Macklin trying to lead the 9 mission to Jeff Ward down. He waited as long as he could. I don't think that 9 Chevrolet, though, really had a chance this time, ever got clear. Macklin jumps ship, goes down to the inside, and leads the inside line. It looked like that 30 of Alves thought about going up top. You can see Macklin, a little bit of mirror driving that time as they came to 4. We'll go back off to turn number 1 this time at lap number 30 of 100 on the night, with the 30 machine now working with that 03 in front. So we'll see what Jeff Ward can do. Started 18th tonight, first time inside of the top 3.
Yeah, and hello, we've got some new faces joining the mix. That little bobble up front has allowed 2 new cars to join the outside line. At 55 of Michael Waters and that 27 of Jeff Fabiano. They have found their way up towards the front. You know, Jeff, he started all the way back in 40th position. He's all the way inside the top 10. So a great run for these guys to figure out their way up through the front and actually be able to battle for these top positions.
Still running with 28 cars on the lead lap, but 29th through 35th are just 1 or 2 laps down, still on track, however, because there are no quick repairs available in this Icebreaker Winter Series. So you get damage, even if it's very minor. We like to see the draft is the great equalizer. Is Macklin not going to find any help? They are going to split him 3 wide down the back straightaway. Tried to control the outside line. It did not work, and Raul Alves had nothing of it. He'll go to the point with a help and an eye to Jeff Ford. The 03 still trying to find a spot in line, and Doug Roth going to back off in the corner. Seeing lap traffic inbound. A smart decision by the 43 Chevrolet to avoid being forced 4 wide.
Yeah, and Macklin was, as I like to call it, he was trying to make his car 3 lanes wide. He was trying to control the entire field. I saw him before jump up to the top and then jump back down to the bottom to try to control the runs. That time, he just waited just a little bit too late on that 30 of Raul Alves, and it just didn't pay off for him. He got stuck in the sucker hole down there in the middle with 0 help. Now he finds himself behind E.J. O'Rourke in that 6th position.
Macklin ends up not all that bad when it's all said and done, in line behind the number 46 machine, 4th in line to the outside, but no longer leading this race. And again, that's something that we saw the 30 do earlier in this race when Alves was on the inside. Outside had a run, came up and shut the door and kind of controlled how fast those guys at the outside were going and kind of managed both lanes. It's a very difficult thing to be able to get really good at on these plate tracks, and I don't think it's surprising, seeing as the 30 did it himself, that when he saw Brian Macklin trying to do the same, he was expecting it, made the move to split him. It had him in the point. He decided not to go down to the bottom, so David Comstock, your race leader, down the Daytona super stretch. Outside, though, they love to get that big run when they come off of the banking, and they have all kinds of momentum off the turn number 3. It's a drag race for the top spot.
Yeah, and it is going to be a drag race back to the line. Not anybody has an inch. It's going to be interesting to see who leads this lap. This is the first lap in a while we've seen each lane on top of each other, and it looks like it's going to be that 40 of David Comstock making his move and trying to stay up front for the rest of this race.
Big gap now going to open up off of the back bumper of Tim Matthews as they check all things up off of the corner, and now we're using the apron to make some extra space. Nowhere for Chad Cole to go. He's got to walk the tightrope between the double yellow and the flat, and he'll be able to get back up on track now. He's able to go down there, and he got to get up now. He's not going to make it into the corner. The 95 makes a move to the inside, and that could have been a lot worse. I'll tell you what, though, you cannot pass below the double yellow line, so going down there to let people by, albeit inadvertently, and out of really an evasive maneuver, perfectly fair. But again, another one of those hold your breath moments here. Still early on at Daytona, just 35 laps in. That time, though, everybody was able to navigate through it.
Kind of jumbles everything up at front. That kind of leaves like a 6-car breakaway. You see up there at the front 3 and 3, and then you got the 31 of Eric Arnold trying to kind of separating. He's kind of the buffer in between. So that move by Chad Cole just kind of separated up as you see the 3 teammates on the bottom, the 40, the 03 and the 46. They're all teammates, and they're all working together on that bottom line trying to secure that lead for the 40 of David Comstock.
It is interesting, though, before all that broke out, the gap that had opened up behind Matthews is now behind Macklin because 54 now leads the outside, working with the 30 of Alves behind. But we're not really tightly grouped together. Now, that's probably going to happen in about a lap or two here. It's not very long that you can see 4 or 5 cars break away when you've got guys within half a second to a second behind him, because this is a very much drafting package. But we're 3-1 in front of the leaders. There's nowhere to go, and contact Tim Matthews. He'll be taken out, and damage on your race leaders as the yellow flag flies.
I saw that coming as you see Jeff Fabiano drive through the grass to avoid that wreck. That was just crazy. You saw Dwayne Vincent and a few other drivers 3 wide as you see the replay come up on your screen, just nowhere for the leaders to go, and they pile into that the back end of the 3 wide of the lapped cars. They just pile into the back, and that collects a whole lot of drivers. So unfortunate for all these leaders who just had nowhere to go.
And I have no idea what, I mean, the race leaders were 2 wide, and sure, those lap cars have, you know, every right to be fighting, but they were single file in turn 3, and then were 3 wide in front of the race leaders. So the spotters of those guys have to be telling them that the race leaders are coming by. You've got every right to race against the race leaders, absolutely. But I cannot explain why they went from single file in turn 3 to 3 wide on the front straightaway. And again, in the sim, everybody's got a sim mandated spot, or a spotter, if you will. So even if you don't have a live spotter in there, you've got live telemetry and all these other things. So it is fair to note, Chris, that a lot of the bigger teams do have guys actually in the session with them and spotting for them and helping them crew chief. But even if you don't, as a lap car, you have to know where those leaders are at all times. And I think that going 3 wide 20 miles an hour slower than them is just something inexcusable.
Yeah, definitely inexcusable. And even if you don't have the luxury of that spot, you still can see the lead cars coming up behind you. I mean, you do have a rear view mirror.
You got a mirror, you got live telemetry, you've got an M-Sim spotter. I mean,
you got so many ways. You have so many ways of figuring out where the leaders are on track. It's just almost impossible with the technology we have to not know where they're at. So, very, very puzzling to me of why they went 3 wide on that extra with the leaders so close. But you know, down and away here, you see the 40 of Comstock, who was able to make it through that wreck. He's leading them down pit road.
Tough break for a lot of the fast cars. Nonetheless, we've got who's left coming down to the pit lane, led by David Comstock, Brian Backlund, AJ O'Rourke, Jeremy Bazemore, Jeff Ward inside of the top 5 as they head down for service this time. We'll see what your race leader in the 40 does as he comes into the box. We've seen a little bit of 2 tires here and there. We've seen a little bit of 4 tires here and there. Right side tires up on the 40 Chevrolet. It looks like Comstock going to go for a full service stop tires and fuel. And he'll sit into the box a little bit longer, maybe getting some of that damage repaired on the nose.
Yeah, he was definitely one of those drivers who were up in the front and got snagged by a few of those cars who just piled into the back of the lap car. So he's going to sit there, get all the damage he can fixed, as you see him pull away now, not wanting to lose too much track position here on the track. So a lot of these drivers who once had a shot at this race has just had their whole race turned upside down in a matter of seconds with this caution.
We were talking about engine temps and getting air to the nose earlier on in this one, and well, David Comstock ended out much better than some of his counterparts who were running up front in that whole deal. He still did get some front-end damage when he made contact with the 75, and damage on the back end, it's not something that you want, Chris, but if you have the option between back end or front-end damage, go for the back end, because on the front, even though it's a night race, even though we talked a little bit about the cooler temperatures, which can help keep those engine temps down, even the slightest bit of damage can drive those temps straight up, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, depending on how severe the contact was. So I think it was a smart play by the 40 to give up the track position, but get the damage fixed.
Yeah, definitely. You always want to take the back end damage other than the front end damage, especially at a track like this. Engine temps, you mess with that radiator just a little bit too much, and it's just all over. So, very, very fortunate for that 40 that it's not too bad. He can spend one caution getting it fixed and back there racing for the lead once again.
With that, we will figure things back out and try to go back under green flag conditions. We'll take this opportunity once again, though, to check in with our LSRTV in-race reporter, Brian Backlund. Brian, you got us again?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Well, you are currently scored at a #1 position. You've been up front for basically this entire thing. We're 40 laps in of the 100 on the night, but it has been quite the opposite of uneventful up at the front of the field, including that last kind of strange incident. What was that like for you guys up front navigating it through the 03 machine? Ended up a lot better than some of the guys that were around you when that happened.
Well, that was really scary because I couldn't see the lap cars as we were coming up on them. I was behind David, and all I could see was his back bumper. So I was relying on my spotter and relying on what he was telling me as far as what was going on. And I'm not really sure what they were doing, but they stayed double file, and it forced us to try to have to split them. And unfortunately, it took out a lot of really good race cars.
Closing in on the halfway point here, you mentioned that you guys really don't plan on dropping back unless things really get out of hand, and when everything breaks out here, you guys aren't being given much warning. But the O3's been doing a good job of being able to navigate through this one. It seems, though, like we've seen a lot of movement between the lanes. I know that you were on the bottom trying to go top, and they split you 3 wide there. We saw the 30 do the same thing. What is it like in these Xfinity cars, especially when you're on the front row, trying to control and dictate the pace of both lanes and navigating those different lanes?
Well, it's so difficult because you just don't know what the guys around you are going to do. And when I made that move and I tried to move up to the outside, I was anticipating that they were going to stay behind me and push me, and they didn't. And that's what ended up getting me shuffled back. It's just a really difficult thing, and you just have to be very mindful of what's going on around you. And you have to make those moves and stick to them. You can't think about it for a second and then try to make that move, because if you wait for a split second, you're either going to cause a wreck or you're not going to be able to make the move. It's literally split-second decisions that you have to make.
Lights back off on the pace car. We'll let you take care, Brian. Good luck on this one.
All right, take it easy, guys. Have fun.
It's once again checking in with our LSRTV in-race reporter, Brian Macklin, who is currently scored as your race leader. Hopefully we'll be able to continue to talk with him as tonight's race progresses on. But the lights are off on top of the pace car, Chris. We get set for restart as we pace down to back straightaway here. Going to be 59 laps to go in this one. Just on the doorstep of the halfway point, and this one has had its fair share of excitement already for sure.
Yeah, definitely a fair share of excitement. In one place I didn't think we would have that much trouble is where they're at right now, that back straightaway. That seemed to produce a lot of our accidents here going in and out of the corners. So the back stretch, not something I thought that would cause too many problems here, but has caused the most problems here at this race. Not necessarily, just getting, into each other. It's just common mistakes, just split-second mistakes, like you saw Brian Macklin mention, that are just costing these drivers their cars.
We get set for another run. 41 laps going to be complete from the Daytona International Speedway, this time at turn number 4. Pace car off and away first time tonight. Brian Macklin in control, and he set sail. Green flag in the air, and nice and spread out across the start-finish line to turn 1.
Yeah, and the kind of gap that Brian Macklin has right now is not the gap you want when you're in that lead position, because that gives these cars behind you just the ultimate draft. They get the ultimate run on you, as you see the 26 and 12 getting really up close to that bumper. They're going to give Brian Macklin a shot coming off of here, and that's going to bobble him up. You see the bob, as you see cars ducking down on the apron. I knew that wouldn't work out too well, that just the run you get from the car being that in front of you, and then that car have to slow down real quick. It just creates that bobble, and that's going to give the outside line that run again, and you're going to see EJ O'Rourke come down in front of Macklin and assume that lead position.
Just the 55 and the 95 at the outside at the moment, and you see the 46 machine now in front. EJ O'Rourke and the 03 traces him up top, and Macklin going to go back to the bottom. He'll split the gap and leave the 46 up top, and it is now Macklin on the inside with the push from Jose Gonzalez. Big check up with the 95. David Comstock going to get to the back bumper as the outside tries to get its momentum back. The inside all of a sudden pulls out a 3-car length advantage. Keep it out on the 26 or the 12 to see if they jump out of line, and the 12 is going to do it. Joey Giatina to the outside of the racetrack.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things have happened. As you see 3 wide to 36. Oh, and that's going to cause a great, massive checkup in the back. Everybody thinking smart. The 95 backs out of that 3 wide situation real fast. But yeah, and just a lot of interesting things happen. A lot of lead changes have happened within these opening 3 laps. Now, as you can see, Joey Giatina is going to lead this lap 44. So it just things can change here at Daytona.
4 cars on the outside has been about the number we've seen for the better part of tonight, and then single file for those on the inside. But a lot of big movers now up here inside of the top 10 as we see Macklin make that same move to the outside, and once again the same result. The 12 going to go to split him. The difference is the 03, he's got a teammate in the 46, and if that 46 went with the 12, probably would have been the same result, but saving him there was E.J. O'Rourke, who went to the back bumper, and it actually ends up costing Joey Jettina a position when it's all said and done. That right there is where teammates can come into handy.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, teammates, I think there was just a little bit more communication between the 46 and the 03 to try to make that move work that time, and it did. It got that 12 to just go up a little bit high and allowed the 46 to slide right in there, right behind Brian Macklin. Now, as you see, they're trying to use that side draft to their advantage down the back straightaway and maybe get right back up there to challenge for the lead from Jose Gonzalez.
And Jose started up front here, dropped back a little bit recently, but the Meatball Mobile is back up in the action and leading the inside lane. I was talking about those big movers. Do want to give a call to the guy right off the back bumper, Jose Gonzalez. How about A.J. Browning? Started 41st position on a provisional back on the inside of Road 21. He was 3rd and then 4th the last time by the start-finish line. Other big movers up here, a little bit further back, Doug Roth, the 43 machine. He started 29th. It is up inside of the top 10. Other names include Jeffrey Ford, David Batone as well, Scott Brotherton, Alan Roll, some of the bigger movers just outside of the top 10 who have already picked up double-digit spots. Another exchange, though, with the race lead, that time through 1 and 2. Macklin once again dives down to the inside and leads the way off the 3.
Yeah, but it's going to be not for long as you see the 46 and the 12 battling back on the outside. They're going to try to get that run and maybe take that lead from Macklin as we're fast approaching our halfway point here now on crossing the line to lap 47. So this is where you start seeing people make their strategy calls. You can see the 12 trying to cool. You mentioned engine temps. Even though it is a cool day, we're 47 laps in, these engines are taking the tear, so you see these cars going up higher and higher, possibly up to that 3rd lane to try to just keep the engine cool and try to make a run for these leads.
Almost at the halfway point, 47 laps going to be complete this next time around. Still excited action going on up at the front of the field. Once we get to that halfway point, as I like to say, we no longer count up, we begin to count down. That's when things get serious. I noted on that first run, sure, they're 2 wide, sure, they're going 3 wide, and even to the point where we had a couple of accidents. These guys not willing to negotiate peacefully for position, if you will. But now, later on in this, is a close call there with the 55 of Michael Waters, is that now all these moves have consequences. If you make a move like we saw Macklin do earlier in this one, go up, get split, drop back 8 positions, not that bad of a deal when you've got 60, 70 laps to go. If you do a move like that, though, inside of the final 30 or inside of the final 20 laps, you might not have an opportunity to make those positions back up. So while you expect things to get a little bit more chaotic, they will inside of the final 10 and 5 laps. Right before that point, with 40 and 30 to go, you'll actually see these guys start to make calmer, more calculated moves, knowing that now every move has an opportunity cost.
Yeah, and it's more of a thing where give and take just turns into take. They start to set drivers, size the drivers up, make the passes where they need to make the passes, and not drive the cars too hard and make costly moves. Brian Macklin, you're not going to see him do that 3-wide move very much because these drivers aren't going to be as forgiving. You saw his teammate get his back that time, but as the laps wind down, you're going to see maybe E.J. O'Rourke say, I want this win, I'm going to go up and split you this time, take that lead, and it's just going to be interesting to see all these moves.
46 machine kind of trying to make a 3rd lane up on the front road. That is E.J. O'Rourke in the middle of this. Let's take a look back just for a moment outside of the top 10, back to the 21 of Jared Treese. He was 17th the last time by. He was 12th that time by the start-finish line. Just wanted to give a call to a couple of these guys. In front of him, you've got Shane Ewing, Jeffrey Ford behind him, Scott Brotherton, Keith Brooks Jr., and Josh Cheney. These are the guys that are knocking on the doorstep of getting into the top 10 and into the major battles that we've been looking at over the course of the night. The problem is, racetrack's 2 wide in front of them, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows deep. They can't go anywhere at the moment unless a hole opens up.
Yeah, definitely, and you're not going to look for these holes much longer. You're seeing these drivers get really close. They're not wanting to give an inch to any other driver. They're just trying to think about themselves this time. You know, all these drivers, you know, racing for a win, wanting to start their season off on the right foot. So they're looking to keep themselves up front and out of any harm's way. As you know, we've seen many cautions in this race so far.
Right now you see that outside lane has 7 drivers up there, and everybody else is lined up on the inside. But with that, we are past the halfway point in tonight's Daytona 250. Let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and many more. We'll have officially 51 laps complete. This time at turn 4 as they go 3 wide for the race lead. Top spot that time on the inside. The 3 of Brian Backlund. EJ O'Rourke second. Joey Jatina third. With Jose Gonzalez and Michael Waters inside of the top 5. Now 3 wide, 2 rows deep. Up at the front of the field. Just behind them, AJ Browning in the number 6 position. David Comstock was 7th. You've got Steve Bavacqua in 8th position. Jeffrey Ford at 9th. And Doug Roth rounding out your top 10.
Just sitting outside that top 10 and 11, Shane Ewing, Jared Treese, 12th, Scott Ballerston, Keith Brooks Jr., 14th, Josh Cheney, 15th, Kevin Linden in that 48 machine, 16th, 17th, Alan Raw, 18th, Bobby Wetzel, Michael Priester, 19th, and rounding out your top 20, that's Tim Matthews.
Final couple of cars at lead lap 21st is Jeff Avogado. Behind Tim, you've got Scott Simley, 22nd, Mike Kelly, 23rd, and Bobby Terrell, 24th position, final car on the lead lap. 1 lap down, P25 is Jeremy Bazemore. A handful of guys 2 laps down, 26th through 29th. David Batone, Dwayne Vincent, Scott Senzel, John Fowler, and Chad Cole right now 3 laps back, rounds out your top 30.
31st, Eric Arnold in that 31 car, William Hill. 32nd, Joe Hudson, 33rd, Jeff Ward, 34th, Raul Alves is 35th, Justin Lisenby, 36th, 37th, Douglas Wyatt, 38th, Ronnie Potts, 39th, Kyle Taraska, and rounding out your top 40, 30 laps down is Jimmy North.
Continuing through the list of cars with issues tonight, Laura Lawson, 30 laps down, 41st. John Atmett, 42nd. And Mike Franklin, 43rd. Everybody from 34th on back are more than 10 laps off of the lead lap, and for all intent and purposes, their nights are done. They have not quite had the season opener that they were hoping. Nonetheless, that's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. Caution flag is out, and we've got junk off, and looks like turns 3 and 4 maybe. We'll get a number on it in just a moment. It's off in 1 and 2, and Jeff Avogano is involved in it with the 27 machine.
Yeah, a hard hit for these drivers. It was a pretty big wreck, as you mentioned. The 27 is sitting down there on the apron. You know, you got the 43 of Doug Roth. Alan Raw is involved. He's got a meatball. He's got black smoke coming out of that. And just unfortunate. That's the third big one where we've seen multiple drivers involved. So it's just heartbreaking to see coming out of 2 there.
And is another one that kind of stems back to the lap traffic. The 75 machine in 33rd position, 6 laps down, Joe Hudson held the inside line, and it worked out for the race leaders who came by 2 wide. And sure, you could say that the inside is the place to be, but I think you ask anybody, and they'd rather have the lap car on the top. And it was right into the entry of the corner, because if he's on the top, if you're too wide, you stay where you are, but he's on the bottom. Everybody tried to step up the hill. A little bit of contact between the 36 and the 95 set that all off, and second time tonight, drivers inside of the top 10 are involved in an accident that stems from lap traffic getting in the way, and a tough break for the handful of drivers that collect some pretty heavy damage in that one.
Yeah, just another occurrence of poor awareness by these cars. As we mentioned before, there's so many ways to figure out where the leaders are. You know, you stay, if your lap's down, it's, you know, very respectful and almost, you know, common knowledge to stay up near that wall and stay up on the high side out of the way, or try to get below the yellow line and get out of everybody's way. So, you know, just poor awareness once again by these lap cars, as you see the 46 of EJ O'Rourke and everybody else come down pit road.
Race leaders in at lap number 55. They're led by E.J. O'Rourke as the top spot shuffled up as when we walked you through there. The top 43, it's O'Rourke, Katina, Comstock, Macklin, Gonzalez. The top 5 as they came onto the pit lane. The 46 in the box right now. Right side tires going to go up on GMercer.com. Chevrolet Camaro going to be a 4-tire call for E.J. O'Rourke. He is not going to be the first driver off of pit road though. Brian Macklin going to lead the race off of pit road. He goes with Sunoco fuel only.
Yeah, very interesting call from that 3-car. No tire stop, just getting that feel, wanting that track position, trying to stay up front here as you see all the other drivers file off pit road now. So, interesting call. Normally you'd see drivers put at least left sides or maybe right sides on the car. He goes with the no tire call, just Sunoco racing fuel only. So it's going to be interesting to see how his car reacts on this restart.
As this race progresses on, we're going to start to run out of time. These guys are going to care less and less about how good the car handles and care more and more about how high it up is in the running order, and that's where you can start to get into some of those sketchy situations with cars on old tires battling up front for position. Brian Macklin opts that fuel only is the call to go. He leads Jose Gonzalez and Michael Waters off of pit road with Joey Jatina, E.J. O'Rourke 4 and 5 coming off of the pit lane. We're past the halfway point in tonight's Daytona 250. We'll take another opportunity to step aside as we go LSRTV non-stop so you don't miss a moment of the action. At the moment, Brian Macklin, your race leader, and the RSR Icebreaker Winter Series opener. Plenty more to come from Daytona on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people.
Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway. Closing in on the 40-lap to-go mark in tonight's Daytona 250. LSRTV happy to be back with you once again for our continuing coverage of the 2016-17 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series campaign. Once again, myself, Evan Pasoko, joined topside by Chris Murdoch and a lovely and talented Cisco Scarmuza downstairs with you in the LSRTV booth here tonight. It has been an up-and-down night for a handful of drivers. Constants, though, were Brian Macklin, Jose Gonzalez, Joey Chitita, E.J. O'Rourke. They occupy 4 of the top 5 positions at the moment. We'll see what Michael Waters can do. He's come from 23rd up to 3rd. Another big mover that we've noted, A.J. Browning, went from 41st to 6th, a little bit further back. Michael Priester, who started 43rd, is up in 10th position. Now's when things get serious. With this restart coming up with 42 laps to go, you're starting to look at yourself now, Chris, in a one pit stop to the end scenario. And now, as I had alluded to before the yellow there at the halfway point, every move you make now is not just a toss-away decision. It could cost you a race if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and one thing I'm interested in seeing is all these drivers who have been up toward the front that have fallen back, staying out of the mess, so to speak, and just riding their whole race. You're going to start seeing all these faces start moving their way up, trying to make their way, not that much racing left to go, so it's going to be interesting to see all these people try to make their moves up towards the front.
We'll see how they navigate the final half of this race as the pace car ducks off and away. They pass underneath the flag stand. Green flag waves are back underway from Daytona. Second time Brian Backlund has got off and got going, and he'll actually jump up to the outside of the racetrack. He'll go back down to the bottom. Tight call with the 12 and 55. Now's also when you'll see those guys at the outside begin to walk down the track. Put the side draft on him, pinch him, and start to give less and less room. And that's when things get dicey up front as the 03 leads him off for 2. Jose Gonzalez charging on the outside.
Yeah, and you see 3 wide EJ O'Rourke. He's making that move. He's all by himself, but he's somehow making that work as, Jose Gonzalez will close that hole and maybe take the run that EJ O'Rourke and feed off of that as you see Joey Katina now fall in behind him. So picking up the spots for EJ O'Rourke as you see the 40 of David Comstock. 81 is having a little bit of trouble. He's settled it out. No caution so far. So just everybody, like you mentioned, just trying to make their moves, and a costly one for him.
Yeah, Keith Brooks Jr. spun it down. He got on that double yellow line again. We saw an issue earlier on with Jimmy North where he spun into the corner. The 81 looked like he walked it just a little bit low off of the corner. The IndyCal 76 Chevy locked it up, spun it around, got back going. Good piece of driving by the 81 to be able to spin it back around, though, and not come back up above the double yellow line. So he stayed on the apron. There was no caution. Meanwhile, 3 wide for the race lead as they split the 46 coming up the middle. EJ O'Rourke gonna discard the 26. Macklin shuts the door on him. Opens up the door for Michael Waters on the inside. The challenge for the race lead.
Yeah, and those two are teammates, Brian Macklin and EJ O'Rourke. So EJ O'Rourke probably not going to be too happy with Brian Macklin just jumping up in front of him and cutting off that run. Almost costly for both of those. You saw the all-impending bobble that has claimed so many victims tonight. That you saw that bobble up towards the front. So EJ O'Rourke probably not going to be happy with him as you see him maybe duck towards the outside. No, he's going to stay with his teammate of Brian Macklin and work around this 55 of Michael Waters.
In fact, more drivers on the outside, inside of the top 10, than there are on the bottom. Quite opposite to what we've been seeing here tonight. But you see the 03 and the 46. See how low they can get into the corner. They're going to get the big run coming off of the 3 stories and 31 degrees of banking that time at a 4. And it is going to be Brian Backlund in control at the start-finish line. But do not count Michael Waters out of this one on the inside of the racetrack. He needs some help. He's got a reliant driver behind him in the 40 machine of David Comstock. So the 40, another guy who's been up here all night but hasn't really been making the big, bold, excited moves, and maybe that's why the 40 looks like one of the nicer cars still out there on track compared to some of these other guys who even inside of the top 5 are working with some damage. Jose Gonzalez, one of those drivers with a couple of scrapes on the left side of his Chevrolet Camaro. They'll go back off to turn 3. Macklin gets clear by the 55, assisted by the push from EJ O'Rourke, and he decides to go down to the inside in front of Michael Waters.
Yeah, and one thing I'm paying attention to is that 03 of Macklin. He's doing a great job of controlling the field. He's not going to be able to, slide up in front of his teammate of EJ O'Rourke this time, as you see EJ O'Rourke get through that lap traffic pretty fast. They're coming up on the lap traffic, who has caused many problems throughout this race. So just trying to get these lap cars shuffled through to open up the racetrack more and try to make more moves, as you're starting to see drivers get all the way up close to the here on the backstretch and try to get a third lane going, as you see Jose Gonzalez tried to do it that time by, but just Joey Gattina not there.
And I feel like you don't necessarily have to give somebody a shout out for doing the right thing, but to give a call to the 44 machine on that one, John Fowler, for doing the right thing there. We've seen a couple of people not be able to do so tonight, but he stayed it up against the fence. 2 wide race leaders, no problem being able to sneak by on the inside, and they're able to continue their fight for the number 1 position. This time, though, the lead switches back in favor of Waters by a 11/100th of a second difference. And EJ O'Rourke, all kinds of over the place to the inside and out, maybe trying to cross up the 55. It's not going to work. Single file the top 3 at a turn number 2. He'll go to the outside. They'll go 3 wide around lap traffic. Brian Backlund with a push on the bumper. It should put both of them to 1 and 2.
Yeah, 40 46, making all kinds of moves, taking his teammate around. They're now 1 and 2 and moving fast. These cars on the inside and outside gotta get it together. They're gonna get that run that we saw earlier on that likes to bobble people up. So we're gonna see Michael Waters get that draft and get a huge run on the 03. Maybe gonna try to stick it on the outside. No, he's just gonna ride in between right behind the 03, as I should say, as the 46 ducks to the high side and is now falling all the way back to Jose Gonzalez.
These things are starting to get tight on the outside. 46 loses some momentum. The 26 gets on the bumper very quickly. He's got to check up, and those are those accordion type scenarios that we talk about, which is even a more dangerous of position to be Jose Gonzalez than it is to be the 46, because if you get right on the bumper of the guy in front of you, the guy behind you is pushing you, you almost get turned into a pinball in between two cars, and you can get spit out of line quicker than you can figure out what's going on. So it's always a little bit of a bite your tongue moment when things get tight on the outside. We've seen it a couple of times. Those guys, though, were easily able to navigate it the last time around. 65 laps complete now from the World Center of Racing. Brian Macklin in control again. You see E.J. O'Rourke leading the outside line. And while there's still a handful of drivers up in this, it is essentially a 12-car lead pack back to Josh Chaney.
Yeah, and you see 3 wide now. You got the 55 and the 26 of Jose Gonzalez splitting that 46 of E.J. O'Rourke. They're looking to reclaim the lead now. The 55 is clear of Brian Macklin. Not anymore, as you see E.J. O'Rourke fall back behind the 20 of A.J. Browning now. A.J. Browning having such a good run, 41st, as you mentioned earlier, off of provisional. He's now up towards the top 5, so just a great run from that 20 car.
Caution, going to come out lap number 67. Will slow him down once again, and it's an issue on the front straightaway for Jeff Favagano. We saw issues with the 27. He was involved in that incident earlier off in turns 1 and 2, Chris, and this time he was just falling off of the lead pack. He was in a single file line of cars and trying to see what the issue was. He had a little bit of help. The 95 trying to pinch. We're talking about that. Guys trying to pinch, get the side draft. He just hooked him.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, give and take just turns in the take. That 95 was just trying to a little bit too much from the 27 of Jeff Favignano there, and just making a mistake and just helping that 27 around. So very unfortunate for that 27 car. Hopefully he can rebound. There's still a lot of racing left to go, almost outside of that 30 lap. We're outside of that 30 lap to go mark, so he's still got plenty of time to work his way back up towards the front.
Well, the tough break for him was he was involved in an accident earlier, and I mentioned that we had about a 12-car lead pack. He was 14th for the longest time there, but that little bit of damage on the car forced him back into that position. That was the second pack running in line behind the leaders. And unfortunately for Favignano, he was involved in the first accident, gets a little bit of damage, decides to hang out there, puts himself in that position, and 2 incidents in a row at no fault of his own, just wrong place at the wrong time. I think going to force that 27 down to the pit lane for repairs and essentially take his hopes away tonight of ending up in victory lane. Never say never, though. It is Daytona. We have seen stranger things happen, but that race car pretty torn up after that heavy contact for Jeff Favignano coming off of turn number 4. So you'll definitely see him come down pit road along with the 95 machine. I believe the driver that he was involved with in that one, Jeffrey Ford. But the question is, do your race leaders decide to come down to the pit lane? They've caught up to the pace car this time at a 4. We'll take a peek. What it is Waters right now in the race lead.
And you see them drifting down, and Brian Macklin fakes out the field. He's going to stay out again. He got fuel the last time, no tires, with his teammate of with his teammates Comstock in that 40 car. So a lot of drivers, another teammates, EJ O'Rourke, he's going to come down pit road, put some tires on that thing, get some fuel, as you see him almost slide through his box there. So, you know, very interesting call from this 03 machine.
It is, and it's especially interesting because, as you noted, he went with fuel only last time. So you've got Michael Waters coming out of the pit lane, albeit behind A.J. Browning, behind E.J. O'Rourke, and behind Jose Gonzalez. But still, those guys have now gotten 2 opportunities to get tires. while Brian Macklin has been sitting out now on 3 stint old tires up front, but the 03 hasn't appeared to have been handling too bad, so maybe it is going to be the correct strategy call. He stayed out with that 40, as you know, to David Comstock. They'll occupy the inside and the outside of the front rows in this one, see if those guys can negotiate something here, work together off of the restart. But that does check things up now. We're 69 laps into this one. Close it in on a restart that's going to be inside of the final 30. And now, Chris, we kind of get into the situation where late enough in this race, every caution flag cycle going to take 5 laps here and there. Well, now 5 laps is a sixth of what's left in this race. So you can get stuck in that constant cycle of maybe cautions breeding cautions that sometimes you get wrapped up in late in these plate races. But now you really have to optimize how much time you have under green flag conditions to make moves, which for the guys up front, they want to take it easy. It's funny that this late in the race is probably going to be the easiest they've been taking it all night because they want to get to 10 to go. They want to get to 5 to go. Then they're going to do battle. But the guys behind, when we talked about the guys just knocking on the door, trying to get up inside of the top 10 tonight, but they're not able to because they're too wide in front and it's a roadblock, those guys are really going to start to get desperate now, and maybe creative is a nice word for it, but they're going to try to force their way up through, and that's when things get interesting.
Yeah, and one thing I want to make a note of is, we don't have the luxury of, green-white checkers here in iRacing. We don't have that yet. So, as you mentioned, knocking 5 laps down, 5 laps down. Once we get in 5 laps to go, that's it. All bets are off. The next flag will end that race. So you got to pay attention to how these cautions come out, because the more cautions you have, the less of a chance you have making it up to the front and trying to make a run for that win.
And also that it's slightly less relevant with this pack-styled draft package that we see here on the iRacing service, but there was always that age-old question of, do you want to be leading at 1 to go, or do you want to be in second? And, you're either on the defense or you're on the offense, coming off of turn 4, coming to the checkered flag. And those were the times where you would sit on somebody's bumper until 3 to go, 2 to go, 1 to go, and then make the move. But because of caution inside of the final 5 laps to go could end the race at any moment. And I'd say more than 50% of the time, if it happens, it's not even with the guys up front. The wreck happens to be deeper in the pack. The guys up front have no idea that yellow is going to come out. You can't sit and try to set somebody up. You can't be too pretty with it. Those final 5 laps, it is an absolute free-for-all, because any moment that caution could come out. That moment the field is frozen. Whoever's got a nose in front is going to be going to victory lane later on in the night. So that's something to look forward to. 30 laps to go this time by. Looking to see if the lights go out on top of the pace car.
Yeah, and it's just so disheartening for a lot of these drivers who, have been waiting the entire 100 laps to try to make their move at the last possible chance. You're going to want to make that move within 10 laps to go to even try to secure your spot. You mentioned who would want to be on the offense or defense. The offense is definitely, the defense is definitely where you want to be, I should say. I should correct myself, because you want to be out in front in those final 10 laps, because, anything can happen. And as we've seen tonight, cautions do breed cautions. We've seen a lot of bobbling around, everybody trying to jockey for position, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. So you're going to want to keep up in that front position, and even closer. You're going to want to keep the leader closer, even in second, to kind of minimize the amount of work you have to do to get to the lead.
There is definitely an art to plate track racing on the sim. We talk about it every Friday night here with Super Speedway Cup Series action. That's going to be returning on the other side of the New Year's break in 2017, where it is no coincidence that you see the same handful of names up front there. It's no coincidence that even here in this series, the same names that you'll probably see up front and battling for a championship at the end of these 10 weeks are the same names that we've been talking about a lot tonight, despite the fact that the great equalizer is the plate track. But skill, in all honesty, can only get you so far at a place like a Daytona. You have to have the luck on your side, and most drivers will admit when they come to a plate track, they'd rather be lucky than good. in those final 5 laps. We're setting up for what could be one of the last restarts on the night here from Daytona Beach, Florida. We're going to have 71 laps complete, take 29 laps to go. It is Brian Backlund and David Comstock, team cars, who stay out to go 1-2. Joey Jatina and Mike Kelly in the number 3 and 4 position, with Michael Priester from 43rd inside of the top 5. Pace car down and away. American at the all. Green flag flies. We're back underway.
Yeah, and one thing I'm paying attention to is that 2 car of Mike Kelly. You see, he's got a little bit of rear end damage there on the right side. Cautions out once again before we can even get into turn 1.
Big issues for William Hale. The LSRTV number 62 is up and over. Big issues on the restart for that team. Going to check things right back up. And it wasn't necessarily one of those accordion effects. It was a heavily damaged double O in front of him of Alan Rawell. And, you know, the 62 trying to get going, getting on the gas, tried to split the gap. It just didn't work. You know, he's back there with a car that, while it did have some damage, was substantially better off than all the cars around him, and a little bit of impatience. I mean, if he sits behind the double O, he figures he's going to be stuck back there. I don't think he was close enough to really be in a position to make a quick enough move to not lose touch with the lead pack, but he was boxed in, trying to split the gap, just didn't work. Came across the nose of the 8 of Chad Cole, who's had a rough night, and up and over a couple of times for William Hale. Good news, if any, is it did come to rest on all 4s, so he's going to be able to drive it back to the pit lane, but heavy repairs needed.
Yeah, definitely heavy repairs. As with any wreck here at Daytona, you know, the cars weren't even up to speed. They hadn't even hit turn 1 yet, and you still see that amount of carnage in just a few short seconds. You know, one thing I want to, you know, ask a question here, Evan. You know, for this 03 of Brian Macklin, who hasn't taken tires and who has skipped out on the past pit stops. You mean, do you want to see these cautions? Because, you know, as for me, I like seeing you know, racing. I like to race it out. I like to race out the wind. Does he want to see these cautions, or would he like to just ride it out under caution and take the win the easy way?
There's a handful of drivers that'll tell you they just want to race it out, and there's a handful of drivers that'll tell you, sure, because we talked about how every caution flag cycle takes 5 laps out of what's left of this race, and we've got 26 laps to go. You figure that's 5 laps left of racing, 5 laps less, rather, that you have to hold people off for. But let's ask Brian Backlund himself. We'll jump back on board with our LSRTV in-race reporter, Brian Backlund. Brian, you got us?
Yes, sir.
So we're talking about how these yellows kind of play into effect here late in a race, and talking about how now, you know, with this next restart coming up with 25 laps to go and even less than that, a yellow takes a good bulk of this race left out. And we were thinking, you as the number 1 car right now, are these yellows something that you're welcome to seeing, or would you rather be going green at the moment as far as trying to get that 03 in victory lane?
Well, I definitely wanted to see at least 1 caution, because we kind of banked on this happening when we stayed out on the most recent caution. We needed about 2 laps of caution laps in order to make it to the end on fuel, and having this caution helped us there. So now we can go clean and green to the end and race this thing out.
We saw that you guys came down to the pit lane a while back and decided to go with just fuel only and then stayed out. Is that 03 done coming down pit road tonight?
The only way I'm coming back to pit road is if it's on a hook.
We hope that that's not going to be the case for you guys. You got the number 1 spot. You got David around there with you as well. Taking a look at some of these other names and kind of how everybody's been racing against each other. How are you guys feeling right now, being in that number 1 position? And for the moment, having that small upper hand of being able to dictate if you want to go on the inside or the outside. How important is it to hang on to that top spot right now?
Well, it's not so much important to hold on to the top spot as it is to stay near your teammate, and having David up here is definitely going to help, and we're hoping to get EJ back up here before the end of this thing. We've been working well together all night long, and it's definitely been the reason why we've stayed at the front all night long, and we're looking to try to get all of us back up here and try to go for a 1-2-3 sweep. I think that'd be a pretty fun way to start the season.
25 laps to go the next time by. Could very well be one of, if not the, final restart on the night. So we'll let you take off, Brian, but in case we don't get an opportunity to chat once again, we wanted to thank you for letting us ride on board with you tonight. Wanted to give you an opportunity to give some sponsors some shout-outs here.
All right, well, I got to thank Gary Mercer Trucking. They've stuck by me for a lot of years, and it's fun to have them on the car again here tonight. And I want to say thank you to you guys up there in the broadcast booth. You've helped me out a lot, letting me call some races with you over the last couple of years. That's been a lot of fun. Also want to thank EJ O'Rourke Photography. He does an awesome job at the racetrack. He takes a lot of really cool pictures. You should go check out his Facebook page. Some of your favorite drivers might be on there, and he's got some really good pictures of them.
Current race leader at lap number 75, Brian Macklin. Brian, good luck. Hopefully we'll be chatting with you a little bit later on with some confetti on top of that Toyota. We'll see you soon.
That's the plan. Have fun, guys.
The Macklin going to be in control for the restart, expecting the lights to go off on top of the pace car this next time by. It'll probably put us at about 24, 23 laps to go, Chris, in this one, but for all intended purposes, basically a 25 lap to go restart. And you heard the 03 machine talking about how their strategy banked on seeing some yellows late. That's just the way that these races tend to go. If we get continuous very short runs like that, it's good for the 03 in front. But I think, like he said, the biggest key is making sure that he and that 40 machine stay nice and close to each other.
Yeah, and, that's something we really didn't pull into this factor was that fuel strategy because, we've seen a lot of cautions here tonight, but for that 03 of Brian Macklin, he really did need to see this caution right here. As you see the lights go off on top of the pace car, we're hitting that 1 to go mark. So the 03 of Brian Macklin needed a caution to stay up front in this race and not have to come back down pit road. So that's another interesting factor, is everybody going to make it here on fuel. As you see, not very many drivers did come down, especially nobody in the top 5 came down. So everybody may be banking on a few cautions to keep their fuel ready.
We're happy that you're joining us here tonight on LSRTV and iRacing Live. If you're looking to get on the iRacing service for a first time, you can do so by entering our promo code PR-2016 LSRTV. And not only are you going to get 13 cars and 14 tracks that iRacing hooks you up with absolutely free of charge when you sign up for a first-time membership, we'll also make sure you get the NASCAR late model on top of the base content absolutely free. Again, that is PR-2016 LSRTV. That is valid on new iRacing memberships only. And for those who are already on the sim, did want to give you a heads up. You've only got a handful of hours left, but in iRacing Cyber Monday Flash Sale, you can get $75 of iRacing credits, and they'll toss 25 bonus credits on top of that absolutely free. So pay $75, you get $100 worth of iRacing credits towards content. That code is PR-Cyber100. It is valid only up until the end of today. Again, PR-Cyber100. You pay $75 and you get $100 in iRacing credits. A good deal. Make sure to take advantage of that if you are already on the service. We have some business, though, that needs to be taken care of here tonight from Daytona. Could it be the final time? Green flag at the Harris. Macklin takes off, putting lap number 76 behind him.
And we saw the last time Macklin got up into that big of a gap, we saw the run happen to where it just bobbled a few cars up. Not going to be that big of an issue here because right now he's only got that 12 of Joey Gattina behind him, pushing him through. As you see the top line, they haven't got together. They've kind of had a little breakaway here in the pack. You see this is about the shortest amount of cars we've seen 2x2 for the entire race. You just got a 4-car pack, as you see now. The 3 of Scott Brotherton and the 45, they're making their way up to the move. Some people we've seen up towards the front but not really lead the race. So as we mentioned before, a lot of these new faces are going to be making their way trying to get this win here tonight.
Less cars on track, as many have continued to fall to victory lane, is to not let those team cars occupy the inside of both the front and the outside lane.
And right now they've kind of got control of this field. As you see the 12 turn, the 2 and the 03 EJ O'Rourke up and over. That's a huge body up, and that's like the whole field right there. Everybody piling back through there. I don't think I saw any car make it through that. Everybody was involved. That was the leaders. You saw the 12 from that 2 of Mike Kelly right down into the 03 of Brian Macklin. So that ends almost everybody's day, if not everybody. I didn't see a single car make it through that wreck.
Well, we were just talking with Brian Macklin. He said that car's not going to be coming back down pit road unless it's on a hook. It's on its lid, so it's going to need the flatbed in order to get back, and just a heartbreaking accident there. Nothing really showed that it was going to be leading up to that. The 12 machine just went high, a little bit high on the bumper. At the same time, the 2 machine did come down, but all he was doing was lining himself back up with the back bumper of David Comstock, and that 2 machine of Mike Kelly gets hooked by the 12 of Joey Jettina. That small movement up the track, up at the front of the field, not only hooked Brian Macklin, but you saw in the replay, it also hooked David Comstock and junked essentially every single car up front. And I said that for the guys who were hanging out outside the top 10, that maybe that damage was going to take away their opportunity to battle for a race win here in Daytona, but I also said never say never, and now we've got no idea who's going to be sitting in the catbird seat, because the names we've been talking about for the last hour and 45 minutes are on pit road, and they're out of this race.
And, even though all of these cars have, damaged, that's going to put the driver of the 20 machine, AJ Browning, up front. He's still got a clean car, guys. I don't know if you're looking at that, but he's still got a pretty decently clean car. So he may be one of the. He is pulling off now. So it's very, it kind of evens everything up for all these drivers that were once in a wreck. Now everybody's got damage, so it kind of changes everything.
We're left picking up the pieces and trying to figure out just who is left in this thing. We're going to be less than 20 laps to go now, as the pace car has picked up some cars. There's Jeffrey Ford there, but he's a lap down. So it looks like the race leader is Michael Waters, who started 23rd in this one. Also, Bobby Wetzel, AJ Browning. Expect those guys to come down to the pit lane when we get back out of turn number 4. Right now, they're pacing single file down the back straightaway. So this thing is far from over. If you look at some of these other names back here, Shane Ewing, you've got, Jared Trees, Jeremy Bazemore's onto the pit lane, somebody like a Jeff Fabiano, Scott Simley, people who have just been kind of hanging out, may have a chance here to battle for a top 10, top 5 position, depending on just how wild things get late in this race. Maybe one of those drivers could even end up in victory lane when it's all said and done. But the scoring loop going to cycle through this time but let's take a look to see who has to come down pit road to get their cars fixed up.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like anybody within the top 5 is kind of making their way down yet. Everybody's staying out so far, so everybody's just wanting that track position. That's important. They all know that each other is kind of hurting in some way, and it's going to even out the field. And a lot of these cars that we had written off with no chance of coming back, had too much damage. It just puts everything back in perspective for a lot of these drivers now that they can equally battle for a win here.
We'll try to get the running order sorted out for you as we walk inside of 20 laps to go from the Daytona International Speedway. Big jump at the front of the field has completely cycled out everybody we've been talking about all night long. We'll get a better look at who's left in this Daytona 250 on the other side. In the meantime, we'll take this opportunity to step back one final time from the World Center of Racing. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on iRacing Live.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment? So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the time model? Nothing?
We're back live from Daytona Beach, Florida, as we get set for, once again, another late race restart inside of the closing laps in this Daytona 250. It's round 1 of 10 on this 2016-2017 RSR Icebreaker Winter Series campaign, and we're happy that you're back with us on LSRTV and iRacing Live. So after all of that, who's left? Well, there's 15 cars on the lead lap. And the top 2 is Michael Waters and Bobby Wetzel. A.J. Browning has been in the conversation tonight, but how about Steve Bavacqua in the number 4 position back up here? Bobby Terrell back into the conversation, and then you also have Jeff Favignano in the number 6 position. Guys like Scott Simley, Shane Ewing, and Jared Treese inside of the top 10. Basically, it is a toss-up. The lights are going to go back on top of the pace car as we try to find a spot in line for the 12 machine, Joey Tutina, who is going to drop back as he receives an end of the longest line penalty. So we will delay the restart until 17 laps to go one more time around. But just running through the names there, Chris, a couple of them we've talked about for the most part, and not as any sort of an insult to these drivers, but a lot of names we haven't talked about tonight. Guys who have been hanging back, 15th and 20th position. Guys who have been in accidents, if not once, twice tonight, are now inside of the top 5, top 10 with an opportunity to go to victory lane.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of, fresh faces along with a lot of familiar faces up here, but, my brain is still on a loop from this caution, still trying to catch up to just the sheer magnitude of what that caution, brought, a lot of these drivers who, were out of a shot here, back in 19th, 20th, outside the top 15 are now inside the top 10. So, all my picks that I had coming up into this race are now out the window. I'm just along for the ride, Evan, and it's definitely going to be a ride here with about, 27 laps to go.
We hope that it is an exciting ride and that nobody else has to take a ride like Brian Macklin did on that other one we were talking with him actually, and talking about him, feeling good. He ended up on his lead. He's been about the 3rd or 4th car tonight who has faced a similar fate here at the Daytona International Speedway. The good news is things will calm down for the next 9 weeks of this championship as we march forward towards the end of this season, which is still not going to come up until the other side of the calendar year in February, but 9 races to go in the championship. A rough finish here tonight is not going to do your championship hopes any help, but it is not going to take you out. There is plenty of opportunity left in this campaign, but still a checkered flag awaits one of the drivers that's left on the racetrack. The pace car going to go off and away. 17 laps to go for Michael Waters. Green flag back in the air as he leads him off to turn number 1.
And one of the more even starts we've seen here tonight as Michael Waters is out to a pretty big lead. You got the 17 of Bobby Wetzel falling back. Now you got the 14 of Bobby Terrell and the 27 of Jeff Favignano. They're making their way up inside the top 5. They're going to be 4th. Before that caution, Jeff Favignano, he was sitting outside of the top 15, like I've mentioned a few other drivers were as well. Now he's up in the 4th position battling for that lead, and he's going to be on the inside line in that 2nd position.
Yeah, and he's going to move up into what's going to be the number 2 spot, depending on where he and the 55 are when they cross the start-finish line. But he's on the back bumper of the 20 of A.J. Browning. Again, Browning started 41st. You'd think he'd be one of the guys who greatly benefited from the yellow, and sure, it helped him back up here. But we talked about him earlier on tonight. Is a close call there with the 27 and the 55. Trying to navigate through tight real estate. You can see those guys on the top giving less and less room to the guys at the bottom as the 17 of Bobby Wetzel goes top to bottom in the center of 1 and 2, trying to work on the inside line.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers not wanting to give an inch. There's a shot from the 27 to the 20 of A.J. Browning. He's trying to keep him up in the lead and just trying to keep this inside line moving as the outside line is now forming. You got the 55 of Michael Waters, the 14 of Bobby Terrell, the 32 of Shane Ewing and that 12 of Joey. They're all up there trying to get up towards the front and you know, at least get a top 5 out of tonight. That's been a rough night for a lot of these drivers.
Just trying to get something out of it again. These are the guys who, for many of them, were in an incident earlier tonight, got the car fixed up, worked on it over the course of these late race caution flags, and now have an opportunity to really, again, I talked about the point earlier in this, that Daytona is the great equalizer, and that some of these guys are hoping to get their best finish that they project for themselves on the season here. This is their opportunity to walk away with some points in the 14. He gets turned by the 32, and off to the apron they go. Out of control is Bobby Terrell. He and Steve Bavacqua into the inside fence. 2 cars below the double yellow, no caution, and we stay green. It's AJ Browning, Jeff Favignano, and Michael Waters, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that shook everything up. You saw the people that have kind of fell off the lead 3 here. They all checked up to just try to get through that. Now they're trying to work their momentum back, as you see the 55 of Michael Waters, you know, jump to that 12 to get that help from the 12 of Joey Katina and just try to get back up to the lead that he was before. Now it's interesting because that shakes everything up. It leaves about, you know, 6 cars up here in a little breakaway off of that wreck.
The 12 trying to split the gap there. It's Michael Waters who really took advantage of all of this. He goes up on the outside of the racetrack, passes the 20 of AJ Browning, comes down in front of him, and now the 2 cars leading that inside line with the advantage over the 12 and the 33 at the moment. Only Joey Jatina and the 33 machine are the drivers on the outside of the racetrack. And interestingly enough, that number 33 machine, who works on the top side of the racetrack right now and is a part of this battle, is in 34th position. That's Justin Lisenby, who is 39 laps down, but right now he's Joey Jatina's best friend because he's working with the 12.
Exactly. You know, these lap cars have you know, played such a big part in this race, but now they can play an even bigger part, you know, helping out these leaders and trying to get that 12 of Joey Jatina up to the front, as you see them splitting the lap car of the 68 machine. So, you know, lap cars have played a big part in the negative. Now they're helping out in the positive, at least in the 12 line.
It's a 2-car race, really. 2 on the inside, working with each other. The 12 is in this fight. Again, the 33 is not. So, well, you have to look at this 4-car battle. It's really a 3-car. The 12 has to bobble, though. 33's got to check up, and that might be it for Joey Jatina, losing so much momentum off of the corner. He's got to grab onto the wake of the 33, and he's got to do it now. Does that leave us, though, with a 2-horse race coming to 11 laps to go? Waters made that great move on the outside with all the momentum, jumped down in front of AJ Browning, who was up until that point looking like the guy who was going to control these closing laps. And now the 20, with less cars in this lead pack, is presented with less options to get around the 55 team.
And now we're crossing the line with 11 laps to go, and if this has dwindled down to a 2-car race, what does that 20 of AJ Browning do? Does he try to use that 33 to advantage and try to get by this 55 of Michael Waters, or does he just sit behind that 55 and take his second place finish? After such a crazy day here at Daytona, I think a second place finish would be alright, but you know, you never know. These drivers always wanting to win the races and always getting off to the right foot here, as the 33 is now on the back bumper of that 20 car. So it's going to be interesting, you know, as these laps wind down, what is he going to do?
Well, the 33 is in this, but he's not with Joey Jatina. Again, the 12 lost too much momentum. He's going to drop back to the 32 and the 27 of Shane Ewing and Jeff Favignano, 4th and 5th. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th going to be in line together. The top 2 breaking away is a 3-car breakaway. That 33 could still play a critical role if guys like Ewing, Favignano, and Treese catch up to these guys, if they work with the 33. But also, if the 33 is not there, Chris, the 20 can only do one thing, and that's go to the outside or get to the inside of the 55, side draft him, hope it works out. That might be a move that you have to wait until the start-finish line to make. We talked so long tonight about not being able to wait to make a move, but honestly, I don't know if the 20 has a chance of getting around the 55 on his own. You don't have to clear somebody, though, to win the race. You just need a nose in front. He may have to go with that old school, wait till turn 4 and make a dive out. But the 33 is there. Can he get on the radio with the 33 team and see if maybe he can negotiate with that team and have that 33 machine of Justin Lisenby give him a push, which could help him out against the 55. A 2-on-1 would be much better for that 20 team.
Yeah, and you got to think that 20 is, thinking of that 33 right there in his mirror, but they can't, afford to mess around for too long, because before you know it, that 12 of Gattina and the 3-car pack here of Fabiano, Shane, and Joey, they're going to be right back up there before you know it, if they can get all sorted out. As you see, the 27 of Jeff Fabiano, he's got that major front end damage, so he's kind of struggling, so he's going to fall off of these two in front of him, and he's still having a great run in that 5th position, but obviously not what he's wanting to see as these cars drive away from him. But if you wait that long, then you'll have these the 12 and the 32 on the outside, and that kind of leaves you boxed in.
Yeah, he was good working with the 32, but until Joey Gattina dropped back, really 2 cars working together much better than 3, and Jeff Fabiano going to be on his own. 14 seconds back is Jared Trees, so I don't think Fabiano has to worry about falling that far back. Basically, assuming nothing else wild happens, he'll be able to get out of here with the top 5. And after starting in 40th position, being involved in 2 back-to-back accidents, I'm sure he would be more than happy to take, but is not going to have an opportunity to be a part of this late race fight. You still see Waters and Browning on each other's bumper 1 and 2, keeping an eye on Gattina and Ewing to see if they can catch up. The last time by, Joey Gattina in 3rd with a 46.9 compared to a 46.4 by the guys up front. I don't think Gattina and Ewing are going to be able to catch these two. It'll be a 2-horse race in this one.
Yeah, and that could become a 3-horse race. You got that 33 sitting right behind that 20, just biding his time, maybe waiting for a little bit. As you see, he's kind of falling off of these two now, so it may end up being a 2-horse battle, and AJ Browning having to wait to maybe turns 3 and 4 to make that move, because as you mentioned, you don't have to clear him, you just got to get that nose barely out in front of him. And we've seen some close finishes here at Daytona, and I think if it's sizing up the way I think it is, this is going to be another one.
Going to be 5 laps to go the next time by. That is the magic number. If a caution comes out inside of the final 5 laps of this race, we will not have an opportunity to go back under green flag racing conditions. So for these guys, again, we talked so much in this race, ironically enough, about how it really comes down to this and how this isn't the way that it's got to go. But in this very rare instant, we've seen wild things happen time and time again here at these plate tracks, but nothing quite like the 2 late race accidents, especially that one at 25 laps to go up at the front of the field, that really threw a monkey wrench into this one, that puts us in this extremely unique circumstance. It is going to be 5 laps left to go from Daytona Beach. It is the point of no return. Michael Waters P1, AJ Browning P2. Only one of them going to end up in victory lane, and that 33 is still there, keeping an eye to see if that Rheem Chevrolet is a factor in this one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the next flag ends this race, and as I'm seeing down the backstretch, the 20 is, maybe trying to, psych out that 55. He keeps coming up and going back down, so he's maybe trying to get a little bit of a movement from that 55 of Michael Waters and try to get him moved up the track so he can just take that inside line and use that 33 to his advantage and get through. But here's the other thing. Who is that 33 going to go with once the pass happens? Does he stay with that 55 or does he go with that 20? And so it's going to be interesting to see, because the 33, I think, is going to be a huge factor in the ending of this race.
97 laps going to be complete this next time around. It'll leave us with laps of 98, 99, and 100 left to go. So 3 on the board this next time around. And we just get to sit in anticipation and wait. Very rarely is it this ironically calm late in the race. Going to work around lap traffic this time by. William Hale going to stay on the outside, no issue, but it is still a single file waiting game. Does AJ Browning risk going for that move? I don't think that really you got anything to lose. The other guys are 5.7 seconds back, plus Gattina and Ewing still 3 and 4. Jeff Fabiano continuing to slide back, now 13.7's off with no draft. but still in the number 5 position. I guess if you go for the move coveted at the Trial, Chris, and you wreck, you got a big enough gap that at least both of you will still slide across the finish line in P1 and 2. The question is, though, does A.J. Browning go to the outside? Maybe does he try to fake him high and dive low? That'll be the question, but I think it's going to happen at a turn 4, unless that 33 jumps at a line with him now, though. We got 2 laps to go the next time by. He's running out of time. He's going to have to decide soon.
And I gotta think that the 20 has this decision made up in his mind. He's gotta know where he's gonna go. We're on lap 98, coming to lap 99, so he's gotta have it in the back of his mind. He's gotta be going through the process. He's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna set him up here. I'm gonna get this run. Maybe he has some communication from that 33. He's gonna try to get that 33 to go with him, no matter what lane he uses. As you see him, to the outside. So not the run he needed, though. He's going to fall back inside of that 55 of Michael Waters.
We'll take a look to see what they can do in the final 2.5 miles from Daytona Beach, Florida on the line. Is a checkered flag in the season opener of the RSR Icebreaker Winter Series. Run to the outside of the racetrack. The 20 going to go high, but the 33 doesn't go with him right away. Now back to the outside. They're side by side for the race lead. The white flag awaits him at turn number 4.
Now here's something I didn't think would happen. I didn't think the 33 would set back. I think the 33 would have some, say in this race. But now the 33 is coming up to the back bumper of that 20 car. The 20 car is going to get this run. The 55 is a sitting duck now. The 20 is going to clear him with ease. And, we're on the final lap. The white flag is in the air. The 20 is going to clear him. So, and the 33 is going to leave that 55 boxed in. So that's got to be, this has got to be the last shot for Michael to move that 33 out of the way. If he has any shot, as you see him go to the outside now, and is he going to clear the 55?
Oh, contact! He put the 33 in the wall. He was in a box, and he pushes him out of the way, and it is still going to work. Michael Waters to the clear off in turns 3 and 4. A.J. Browning is going to come out of 4 with a run, but he's going to come up, I think, just a little bit short. The race to the checkered flag. Waters on the defensive. He's going to hang on. Your winner from Daytona, Michael Waters, in front of A.J. Browning, gets the job done and takes home an unconventional Icebreaker Winter Series season opener.
And I think that was a little bit of a cheap shot from the 55 of Michael Waters there. A 33 to say, hey, you almost cost me this win, but it didn't work out. So, very interesting from the 55s. But you see the 33 get right up next to that 55 machine. Nothing going to happen out of it now, but very interesting of how that final lap played out.
Yeah, the 33, no doubt, was the reason why the 20 got in front of him, but I think that in the end, the 33 did the right thing because he got up to the fence. If he stayed really in that outside lane, he could have pinched the 55 down. He got up and out of the way. I think it's a gutsy call for Michael Waters, though. I don't think he meant to hit him. I think he meant to cut it close because that could have just as easily, Chris, put the 55 in the fence himself. Nonetheless, though, after a spirited charge from A.J. Browning, Michael Waters is still going to be able to hang on.
Yeah, what an amazing run from these drivers. These were the few drivers that we talked about that, were up front a little bit, but, after that caution that just shook up everything, they were able to keep their cars clean enough and keep them out in front and fight for that lead. So amazing run by Michael Waters and a great effort from that 20 of A.J. Browning. He started 41st and he comes home second. So great run by both of these drivers to come home 1 and 2.
It is a celebration for the number 55 U.S. Coast Guard Chevrolet Camaro of Michael Waters. Your winner tonight from Daytona passes 22 cars from a starting position in 23rd to pick up the win in the season opener. Great. Joey Giacchina and Jared Treese finish inside of the top 5. Only Jeff Favignano in 6th and Bobby Wetzel in 7th are the only other drivers to come home tonight after what was a grueling 250 miles actually on the lead lap. The 55 going to take the Polish victory lap as he heads towards Gatorade Victory Lane, and we will catch up with him on the other side of one final commercial break. We step aside from Daytona. The LSRTV post-race show is on the other side. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on iRacing Live.
the straights are unbelievably long. The first time you come here, everyone tells you, you'll be flat out sixth gear for 20 seconds. First time I was here, I lifted halfway down the straight. I didn't believe that it was still going. I was waiting to brake, and I was back on the power. And the Porsche curves are extremely fast and extremely narrow, so it's a tricky track, and every year I've come here, you learn something new every time.
Le Mans is so fast. Wherever you accelerate, you are over 150 miles per hour. Going there, I realized everything you have done before was nothing.
We're back live at the World Center of Racing, and things have calmed after what was a night of attrition for a lot of guys that, in fact, up until 25 laps to go in this race, really didn't look all that unconventional. But all of a sudden, big junk amongst the top 10, 15 cars, and all of a sudden, there's 7 drivers left in this race, and Michael Waters takes advantage of it with a thrilling last lap pass on the back straightaway to pick up the win in the season opener. We'll go trackside with him in a moment. First, let's take a look at tonight's LSRTV full race results for the Daytona 250. Waters gets the job done, started in 23rd to pick up the win, and even that impressive charge not going to net him the biggest mover. Those honors fall on your second place finisher, A.J. Browning. Picks up 39 spots tonight, starts 41st, comes home second. We'll also catch up with him and your third place finisher, Shane Ewing, in just a moment. Joey Chichita, Jared Treese, as we already noted, Jeff Fabiano, and Bobby Wetzel, the drivers who come home through the top 7 on the lead lap. Drivers 1 lap down. In 8th position, Doug Roth. 9th spot, Scott Simley and Jose Gonzalez rounds out our top 10.
Yeah, Steve Bevacqua comes home in 11th. 12th is Dwayne Vincent, the number 1 machine of Jeremy Bazemore. 13th, 14th, John Fowler. Jeffrey Ford, 15th. 16th, Eric Arnold. 17th, Joe Hudson. William Hale, 18th. 19th, Bobby Turrell. Keith Brooks Jr. in that 81 machine will round out your top 20.
We're already talking about guys 20-plus laps down. There wasn't a lot of sheet metal left on track late in this one. 21st for Michael Priester, E.J. O'Rourke. 22nd with Josh Cheney, David Comstock, and Scott Brotherton in 23rd, 24th, and 25th. The P26 tonight for Mike Kelly. Brian Backlund looked like he might have had this one. Has to settle for 27th position. Alan Rowell in 28th spot. Chad Cole, 29th, and Justin Lisenby rounds out your top 30.
Laura Lawson comes home in that 25 machine, 31st. Kevin Linden, 32nd. 33rd, Tim Matthews. Scott Stenzel will be 34th. 35th, Dave Batone. 36th, Jeff Ward. Raul Alvis, 37th. 38th, Douglas Wyatt. 39th, Ronnie Potts. And rounding out your top 40s, Kyle Tarasca. Rounding out your field, Jimmy North, 41st. John Abbott, 42nd. And Mike Franklin in that 82 machine is in 43rd. I'm going to throw it over here to Evan Pasoko, who I think has caught up with our race winner of Michael Waters in that 55 machine. Evan, it's all yours.
It was an interesting kind of late race drama and a last lap pass for the win, but Michael Waters gets the job done tonight. We're down in Gatorade Victory Lane with the driver of the number 55 machine. Mike, congratulations. You guys started really in the middle of all of this, but the turning point in this race was there with about 15 laps to go or so. That big accident, next thing you know, you've got one of the only pristine race cars left for all intended purposes, and you were able to close it out at the end. Talk us through that final quarter of this race and kind of how the emotions and the track position was going all over the place until you locked it up.
The emotions are indescribable, I can tell you that. This is my first league win, and to do it with Real Sim Racing it just feels good. Even though when I look at the the roster going down, there's a lot of guys a lap down, and I was the only one with a clean race car. But you know what? I'll take it. And big thank you to AJ, the 20 car back there, for racing me clean. And I believe it was Jared Treese, the 21, who was a lap down, that gave us a little bit of room to race each other. So really came down just to missing the wrecks. That's all I got to say, I guess.
We had a conversation basically exactly on that at about the halfway point that, you know, even through these next couple of weeks, the guys who were up front for the bulk of this thing are probably going to be up front in those races and in the championship. So there is no doubt a part that comes down to these plate races that does have to do with talent, as much as these races are a toss-up. But sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good in these late race scenarios. And for you guys in the 55 team, the stars just kind of aligned tonight for you. While all of that was going on up front, you know, and starting in the middle of the pack, what was the objective coming into tonight? Because whatever strategy you guys implemented, maybe some of it had to do with the calls you made, some of it had to do with luck, and having that on your side never hurts. But whatever you guys did tonight between lap 1 and about 85 put you in position to win this race.
Yeah, a lot of it was between 1 and 85. There was a conversation in TeamSpeak. I was trying to, while John Abbott was going over the rules, I was trying to get a word in edgewise to ask to pull over on pit road. I didn't know if that was one of the rules or not, but I ended up taking my Q spot on the track. But I believe it was maybe lap 1 or maybe even lap 2. I can't remember, but it was real early. I pulled over and just went straight to the back, and that got me out of the majority of those wrecks in the first half of the race, or first 3/4 of the race. And I found myself sitting 10th, and then just decided to race. And from then on, it was just, you know, just trying to keep it clean and do the best I could and not wreck myself, not make any mistakes, I guess. But my game plan was definitely to start in the rear for sure.
Still a long way to go in this championship. It carries into the 2017 calendar year, obviously, but the one big question mark is now out of the way. The only plate track race we see on the year, and coming up, we've got Fontana, Texas, Las Vegas, and Michigan on this side of New Year's. We'll come back in 2017. Charlotte, Atlanta, Chicago, Kentucky, Homestead. Not that those tracks aren't exciting. They're all very unique in and of themselves, and you know, we'll be able to talk about that as the season goes on, but there is no real huge wild card for this calendar. There's not a Martinsville tossed in there or a road course. So now that the big question mark is behind you guys and you leave tonight with the most points out of anybody in this championship, what is the objective for the 55 going forward to still be inside of this position in the points and in the conversation, you know, come 2 months from now when it gets down to crunch time?
There's a lot of fast guys in here. There's a lot of damn good talent, a lot of really fast drivers in here. So I think I'm just going to sit on this one for a week and smile big for a week and take this one home. And I don't even know where we're going next week, maybe Auto Club. And I'll just do my best I can on the 1.5 miles like I always do in this league. And that's all I can do. Like I said, I'll sit on this one for a week and I'll be happy as hell about it.
You've got 6 days to enjoy it. We're back at it in 1 week's time on the 5th of December from Auto Club Speedway. That one going to be 90 laps and 180 miles in distance. But we'll let you celebrate this one. We'll let you take off, Mike. Before we let you go, the sponsors, the shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you?
Well, my wife is really patient with me about all this stuff, so a big thank you to her. She don't understand none of it, but she lets me enjoy it, and I couldn't ask for any more than that. Tim Matthews has been a huge help to me on this sim, getting me up to speed. So a huge thank you to him. And Raul was also in TeamSpeak with us today. And, you know, he led a bunch of laps up there today and did real well too. And big thank you to him for all the help that he's done. We had a long talk before the race, so big help to those guys. Or big thank you to those guys.
Your winner of the Icebreaker Winter Series Opener Daytona 250, Michael Waters. Mike, congratulations. Thanks for chatting with us. Enjoy it. You've got 6 days, and we'll see you when we get back to work next week.
I'll take it, Evan. Thank you.
Getting the job done in the number 55 machine here tonight. Not a bad way to get a calendar year kicked off. Caught up with your second and third place finishers. Pit side is Chris Murdoch. First, he's trackside with the driver who comes home P2 tonight and who is on the other end of that two-car race to the end of this one. He was leading down the back straightaway on the white flag lap. Wasn't able to close it out, but still a great night for A.J. Browning. 41st on the grid to P2 when it's all said and done, and he's trackside with the 20.
Yeah, I got that 20 of A.J. Browning. He finished second, second place coming up a little bit short there, but, you started 41st, and after all the carnage, the second place has got to feel pretty good.
Oh, yeah, thanks. First, I want to give a shout-out to Michael in the 55. He drove an excellent race there at the end, and we finished it clean. And he got the better of me. He won. I went just a little bit early, but strategy was pretty much just starting the back. I kind of felt like in practice that the setup, was going to be a little hairy for people, especially if it got below the apron. I figured there'd probably be a couple wrecks or something. So I just stayed at the back and played my cards, and took some tire strategy and got myself up there, about halfway into the race, and was able to run with him up there, and luckily, that last big wreck, I went right through the middle and come out, and there wasn't a car in front of me, and I knew then, I was like, I'm gonna finish well tonight, and that's what happened.
And I want you to take us through those final two laps. You had that 33 car right behind you there, and did you guys have any communication there? Did you and Justin have any radio communication between the two to try to get you up front and try to get you to stay there?
No, before the restart, I told the 55 I'll try to push him if I can, because I knew I was good enough to push him, and we could probably build a lead up on him. I didn't know he was going to have a tag a lap car along with us, which was even better. But no, I didn't have no communication with him, so I told the 55 I was going to try to work with him, and you know how Daytona works. You can be friends, up until the last lap or two, and then it's going for the win. So.
And you got the wild card behind you now, and we move on to Auto Club. Is that a track that you're good at, that we can look forward to seeing you up front and racing for another one of these?
I seem to run mid-pack a mile and a half. Is just something I need to improve at. As far as tonight, I've got a ton of luck on these super speedways. I don't know what it is. I always seem to make it through, unscathed. But each race is just a learning process for me to try to get better and better each week, and just go from there, and try to be ready for the Full Throttle Cup next season.
And there you have it. That's your second place finisher, A.J. Browning. A.J., before we let you go, we're going to give you one final shot to give out any sponsor shout-outs that you need. Who makes it happen for you?
I'm not on a team or nothing. I want to send a shout-out to my brother watching. Definitely a shout-out to LSRTV. I love watching you guys' broadcasts. They're awesome to watch, and this league, they're a fun group to run with. Anybody on iRacing, I would suggest to come run with these guys. It's a ton of fun.
Well, the kind words are always appreciated, AJ. Congrats on your second place finish.
Thanks, guys.
And I'm going to move down one pit stall here to the third place finisher, Shane Ewing, in that 32 machine. Shane, you were kind of one of the people that flew under the radar this race and kind of made it through the bulk of all the carnage. So how does it feel to come home third?
Well, it feels good anytime you can get a podium finish. I certainly had prouder moments. I had a couple of incidents there late in the race. Tried to put the Rayovac Camaro in a hole that wasn't there, and wrecked a couple of cars. Bobby Torello, I've got a ton of respect for, and Steve Bavacqua, who I've raced and known over 20 years and painted the car I drove tonight. So I just got impatient the way this setup was, where you're off the gas so much and you couldn't sustain a run, and I just got a little impatient there. So I hate that. And then there at the end, racing Joey Jatina, I didn't even think I was going to be able to get under him, and did that, and then we were side by side, and really thought he was going to get me, and he just came across the nose there at the end. I didn't turn up into him at all. I don't think he's very happy with me either. So yeah, I've raced on here for almost a year, and have tried to be respectful and run everybody clean. But I don't think I made a whole lot of friends tonight. So I've certainly had happier moments. I'm glad to be here, but a little bit somber at the same time.
Well, we're going to take you back a few laps. That caution that basically took a lot of the front runners out of it. You were hanging back kind of outside of that wreck. What was it like to go through that wreck and make it through it?
Oh, you're just puckered up and steering and looking for daylight, man. It happened so fast. It was really not even a lot of time to get slowed down. You're just trying to miss everything that's going on around you. It's one of those things where you get through the smoke on the other side and you're like, man, I'm pretty good at this deal, 'cause even though it's all luck. So that was one of the few fun moments that I had tonight.
Well, you said you're a little bit somber tonight, but now that this wild card of a track, Daytona, is behind you, you're moving on to Auto Club. And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked AJ. Is this a track that you look forward to? Are you good on the mile and a half? So you think you can fare well at Auto Club?
I think it's probably my best track the whole year. So we'll get some practice in and hopefully keep the Rayovac Camaro up near the front and get some good points.
Well, before we let you go here, we're going to give you one final shot to give any sponsor shout-outs, anybody that's helped you throughout tonight. Who makes it happen for that 32 machine?
I first want to thank you guys at LSRTV for putting on a hell of a broadcast. My mom watches from her house every week and loves it, and I love that she's able to do that. I got to thank my wife, Christina, and my girls, Ashley and Haley, for putting up with Dad being down in the basement so much. So I couldn't do it without their support. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me on.
And there you have it. That's your third place finisher, Shane Ewing, in that 32 Rayovac machine. Congratulations on your podium finish.
Thanks, man. See you next week.
And there you have it. That's our top three. Michael Waters coming away with the win here. Evan, now that this wild card is behind us, now that all the carnage that we've seen tonight is behind us, and we can move on to a little bit more calmer racetracks in Auto Club and stuff, what are we going to be looking forward to there?
We've got, as we noted, the single wild card race out of the way. Now things can kind of calm down, and I say calm down sparingly, because there are some exciting tracks, and Fontana is actually faster than Daytona in many aspects. You go to a place like a Texas, that's a fast track. Las Vegas has got a couple of grooves. Michigan, another fast track, and that's just in these next 5 weeks. But look to Fontana to still be somewhat of an outlier. I think Texas is going to be the biggest really key that's going to show us what we're to expect to see, because when we come back after the midseason break, 5 intermediate tracks back-to-back: Charlotte, Atlanta, Chicago, Kentucky, Homestead. There's no doubt those 1.5 milers are going to be the most important track to be good at. We're going to have to wait till week 3 to get there, and Fontana should bring us an interesting one for the California 90 in 1 week's time. But tonight was, I say unconventional, and Daytona, Chris, is always unconventional. I think very rarely do you have a calm or orderly event here, but tonight was a little bit cranked up on the crazy scale late in this one, and it provided us for a rather interesting result. And despite the fact that there were only 7 drivers on the lead lap, we saw a last lap pass for the race win between Waters and Browning.
Yeah, it was such a crazy race. A lot of things that I didn't think that were gonna happen, and that always happens with Daytona here. Always producing just a crazy finish, whether it is with just 2 cars or 10 cars. It can always produce great racing like it did today. And even though we had a few big wrecks and only 7 cars finished on the lead lap, it still produced a great race. And I'm excited that I'm glad for all these drivers that didn't get the great end of the stick here, that they have gotten past Daytona and can move on to a little bit more tamer tracks. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week.
We hope to see you when the RSR Icebreaker Winter Series returns to LSRTV. The next race on the championship is the 5th of December. That is in 1 week's time, right back here on LSRTV at iRacing Live at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. You can also take a look at some of the upcoming events that we have just this week still. Plenty of action coming to you on LSR TV. Tomorrow night, more NASCAR iRacing Pro Series action, short track action coming up on Thursday with the Upstate Racing League, and then Saturday night trucks with the United Sim Racing B&C Truck Series. You can find a full extended broadcast schedule on our website at www.livesimracing.com, and you can also stay up to date with us up to the minute on social media by giving us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/livesimracingtv, as well by following us on Twitter at LSRTV. But until next time, that does it here for us here tonight from Daytona International Speedway. On behalf of the entire LSRTV team, for everybody here tonight, and as well the folks behind the scenes, for the broadcast crew tonight, for our producer Cisco Scaramuza, for Chris Murdoch and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to congratulate Michael Waters as your winner at the RSR Icebreaker Winter Series season opener. We move out west to Fontana, California. The second round of this 2016-17 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series campaign is back on next Monday night, and we hope to see you then. Good night.
This copyrighted broadcast is presented under the authority of LSRTV LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations and may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form, nor the accounts and descriptions of this event disseminated in any way without the express written permission of Live Sim Racing TV. LSRTV would like to thank its loyal fans for their continued support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.